the everyday Hogwarts player. This video is purely for entertainment and does not infringe on copyrights or laws. The rights to the novel and image belong to the original author. We do not claim ownership. Don't like waiting and want to listen to this fanfic in full now? Subscribe to our Patreon, where you'll find the best fanfics. Chapter 651 Medicine Garden. In the real Smith Castle, in the surrounding European-style buildings, there is a pure wooden building that looks out of place. It is made entirely of huanghuli wood. It reveals a classical and mysterious charm. There is a sign hanging at the entrance with the words Medicine Garden written in Chinese. After opening the door, the smell of traditional Chinese medicine wafts over you as you enter. The surrounding background walls are made up entirely of small drawers as different. If you don't know, you might think you have arrived at a murderer's base. The smell of formalin lingered throughout the room. The surrounding background walls have all become transparent glass jars. It contains organs from all kinds of strange and bizarre creatures. And there is only one room left in this building. It was also completely different from the previous two rooms. In a sense, it is a combination of the first two made up of various transparent glass jars. However, these glass jars were not filled with liquid. The animal limbs contained inside are also dry materials such as bones, nails, and scales. In the center of these three rooms, there are crucibles of various sizes. Various tools for handling medicinal materials, scales, tweezers, knives, grinding tools. There is no doubt that this is the room Ryan uses to store potion materials as medicine. After processing, the second room contains the organs of magical creatures that have been preserved and kept alive using a storage potion that has a similar smell to formalin. The third room is for potion materials that need to be air dried or kept dry, for example, African brush snake skin, fecal stone, dragon nails and two-horned beast horns and various minerals. And the layout and design of this building, it has nothing to do with Ryan himself. To keep it fresh, Ryan did not conduct in-depth research on herbology and potions, which did not affect his strength. And the main god, using the terms of fairy tales and fantasy, is Ryan's second soul. It will happen, and Ryan will too. So it also deliberately did not touch any potions or herbology books. Prevent classes from becoming boring. But this room was still built. It also collects all the medicinal materials needed in all potion recipes. Among those who knew Ryan's identity, there was naturally only one person who was truly knowledgeable in potions and could be considered a master, Severus Snape. In order to revive Lily Evans, he even allowed Ryan to eat hot pot in his class. Spend your personal time working overtime before Christmas. Considering Smith's channels and financial resources, it is understandable that he would build such a room. Even though Snape drank the energy potion as if it were water, but worldwide, all potion recipes, the medicinal materials are classified according to their usage, such as plants and animals, dry and wet, organisms and minerals, and treated appropriately according to the properties of the medicine. This is a lot of tasks, even with the help of house elves and various advanced magic circles. Not to mention it's difficult. An expert who only knows how to make potions, like Harry, can't do it. That was why Harry caught a glimpse of fatigue on Snape's face. Snape, who was not a big shot to begin with, even took out his anger for Lily's death on Neville. Naturally, he wouldn't let his students relax. Even though Christmas was approaching, he was not going to lower his standards in class. It was even more severe, and the amount of homework was also. And the reason why Snape ended up like this. The same is true. Ryan has a big heart though. As pure as a child. But he is not outdated. To treat everyone equally. It demonstrates the magnanimity of the 21st century time travelers and young pioneers. Snape, who is considered a subordinate. He spent a large sum of gold galleons to build such a medicinal garden. Is there such a good boss in the world? Can Dumbledore do that? Willing to spend money to improve your employees. In order to save time, employees were also given medicine. Next to it is Hagrid's cabin. The branches and leaves of the redwood trees in Castrobus are covered with thick white snow, like a Christmas tree. The sides of the Durmstrang ship were glossy and sleek with ice, and the rigging was rimmed with hoarfrost. Although teachers gave third graders a lot of homework during the holidays, but after the semester, Harry had no intention of doing his homework. It's not because he has changed. Become like most Gryffindors, like Hufflepuff students, the week before Christmas was all about having fun. It's because his energy has shifted more to dancing. More and more people knew that Harry and Ginny were the lead dancers. Harry suspected that it was the girl who was related to Terry who spread the word. In order not to bring shame to Hogwarts, many students who claimed to be dance masters found them. What's even more outrageous is that they are really professional, Lane said. It's easy to pause time and fill them with professional dance knowledge. This forced Harry, who wanted to use this as an excuse to refuse guidance, to accept it wearing a mask of pain. But even when Harry was resting, he could not find peace. When their last individual competition ended, Fred and George's shouting and handing out flyers while sitting on flying chairs above the stadium were not completely useless. Their products are selling very well. Various prank props began to become popular in the school. Among them are canary biscuits and fat tongue toffee. In the first 1 or 2 days after the holiday, some people would suddenly grow feathers all over their bodies. Or the tongue swells as large as it can without interfering with breathing. As the current darling of Ravenclaw, he is always given a lot of food in the common room. He needs to start being careful about the food that is handed to him, lest there be a canary cookie hidden melted in the middle. Ron always ate the snacks given to Harry before, and conveyed Fred and George's warning. They are also developing new products that will be put on the market after being registered with the Funny Products Patent Office. This means he also couldn't touch foods that couldn't be stuffed with canary biscuits or drinks that had fat tongue toffee in them. Posted later. Chapter 652 Dobby's Gift. Because of this, Harry developed the habit of going out. He also realized beautifully that the changes in the castle were interesting. The school was decorated with lights and colors. The handrails of the marble staircase are hung with icicles that never melt. Passed by. Hear an empty helmet sing "O come, ye who are pious." It's really funny. Armor only knows half of the lyrics. Filch, the janitor, had to pull Peeves out of his armor several times, because Peeves was hiding in there. When the armor can no longer sing, he made up some lyrics to fill in the lyrics. They were all very rude and ugly words. This is really rare for Harry. Because of his passivity, he never had the chance to get up close and personal with Peeves, but he found that Peeves hid in his armor when I didn't see him. I couldn't sense him temporarily. However, when he really put his face close to the armor where Peeves was hiding, Peeves would then let out a loud cry after realizing what was happening, then run away. Then the armor shattered to the ground with a clang. The armor could only clang and bounce on the stone floor, approaching its shattered body, then slowly put it together. Ryan wondered if Harry Potter was infected by Ron. We are all so unlucky. There are so many students with excellent dancing skills at Hogwarts. I didn't even feel any doubt. And you dare to plot against him in your mind. Before this, Harry had been able to connect the dots. This made Ryan feel depressed for the first time in a long time. You have something to do with you. This further reduced Ryan's presence. Then, the creature that had subconsciously stayed away from the bedroom because of Ryan's existence finally appeared. Dobby. Harry fell off the bed. On the 4-poster bed in the corner, Ryan saw the scene and finally laughed out loud. However, no one could hear it. He continued to watch the scene in front of him with interest. Harry, his heart pounding, stood up by the bed. "Dobby, I'm sorry, sir." Dobby screamed in panic. He wanted to go forward and help Harry, but he felt a little ashamed. Feeling unworthy of touching the body of the great Harry Potter, Dobby just wanted to wish Harry Potter a Merry Christmas, and bring him a present. "Sir," Harry Potter said, "Dobby can come and see him anytime, sir." "Oh, it's Christmas today." Harry shook his head. "As soon as I opened my eyes, I saw Dobby with green eyes the size of ping pong balls, a nose as thin as and bat ears." Then he was startled awake and fell under the bed, which made him a little confused now. However, the gifts piled at the foot of the bed made him confirm this again. It really is Christmas. Harry drew aside the curtains around the 4-poster bed and put on his glasses from the bedside table. His shouting didn't seem to wake anyone up. Ron, Neville, Anthony, Michael, Terry and others were still sleeping soundly. With his hair disheveled, he looked at Dobby confused. "Is it really you?" It wasn't that he was still in a state. But Dobby is now completely different. "The last time I saw Dobby was when I summoned him when I asked Grindelwald." Dobby's salary in his memory, Dobby was clearly paid 1 gold galleon per week, but now Dobby is dressed very strangely. On his head he wore a teapot coziness, with a host of colorful badges pinned to it, to set him free. The other sock is printed with pink and orange stripes. What Harry didn't know was that Dobby's change of clothing wasn't due to his complaints. In fact, Dobby had already worn this. He had appeared before Riddle in this attire at that time. Riddle even complained to Dumbledore about Dobby's identity as an elf. It can be said that if it weren't for Harry's complaints last time, Dobby would probably still eat in a tea towel. However, Dobby didn't notice that Harry was confused by his outfit. He just thought he had just scared Harry. This made him feel very guilty. Bad Dobby. Bad Dobby. He even confused Harry Potter. Dobby is Dobby. He wanted to punish himself, but was unable to act because of the orders of his former masters Draco, Harry, Dumbledore and others. Bend over and stare at me like that. Harry replied quickly. He didn't know how to say it. Did he say that he didn't recognize Dobby at first because of the way he was dressed? He had no choice but to skip the subject of clothing. Dobby, standing next to him, modestly repeatedly with tears in his eyes. Harry Potter allowed Dobby to touch his noble body. Europe. How kind, noble and good. This can only be compared with Master Malfoy, who was given to Dobby. Okay, Harry paused. If Dobby continued, he would probably get goosebumps. Dobby, I have a gift for you too. Dobby's outfit inspired him. He took out a pair of brand new socks from the bag Draco's father had given him, which was covered with a traceless stretch charm. Dobby was beaming with joy. But he still did not forget the purpose of his visit. He asked in a shrill voice, "Can Dobby give his gift to Harry Potter?" Of course. After seeing Harry a small package. Socks too. Well, maybe. Harry smiled and nodded, changing into the socks Dobby handed him. Dobby, you are really good at cooking. Dobby's eyes welled up with tears of joy, and he wiped them away awkwardly. Dobby must go, sir. We are already in the kitchen preparing the Christmas feast. Thanks to Chanksu Eugene for the monthly ticket and other classmates for the recommendation and subscription. Chapter 653 Ryan's Gift and Change. While Harry Potter and Dobby were talking about the presents, Ryan, seeing that there was nothing more to come, just looked at the presents beside his four-poster bed. Hermione gave Ryan a book called The Importance of Exclusivity in Human Relationships. Luna sent a bag of roasted Gordugan tea. Furin gave him a pair of light and easy-to-take-off men's pajamas, which had a magical power that could emit different levels of incense according to the wearer's body temperature. Kate gave him a voucher for a two-person trip from a mysterious travel agency, with a destination in the United States and the time being the afternoon of April 4th, the day after Easter. As for Penelope's gift, it was the strangest. It was a book with a letter written on the cover, but it was blank when opened. There was a bookmark with instructions written on it, a letter paper. This gift is in line with Penelope's hobbies. That is, no matter what, even if he met her face to face, she preferred to communicate through letters. It's been a while since I tried to pull the castle over. Ryan stretched out his right hand. With a pull in the air, accompanied by a teeth-grinding creaking sound that only Ryan could hear, the gate of Smith Castle was invaded from the interior of Ravenclaw Tower. The door of Ryan's bedroom opened, and the 5 gifts automatically flew into the storage cabinet in the corner of the bedroom. Bang, 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 bang. It seemed that the owner did not move. The door automatically and slowly disappeared into the air. Ryan slowly opened the other gifts. The most interesting one here is Snape's. Snape was acutely aware of Ryan's lack of knowledge about potions, and Hagrid, no Ryan, their gifts were only mediocre, but the main thing about gifts is whether they are thoughtful or not. For this, Ryan also gave a return gift. He gave Harry a book on the principles and shielding methods of trace threads. This would help with Harry's big Easter event, help him eliminate possible Ministry of Magic detection. Although Little Hangleton is still registered as a wizarding haunt by the Ministry of Magic, magical fluctuations occurring here will not cause any alarm, but the wizard-only family here, the Gaunt, is gone after all. Plus Harry is an underage wizard. There's still a slight possibility of being discovered by the Ministry of Magic. He gave Ron the latest copy of Doraemon, which was not officially on sale yet. As for Neville, he presented a piece of patch that only Neville could see, and that would be burned after reading. There is a spell recorded on it. Its function is to absorb the aura of black magic, curses, poisoning and other negative substances from others and transfer them to the caster. This is a waste of time for other wizards, or in other words, a way to sacrifice yourself, but for the magic attribute, it has a magical power that can be said to be able to break demons. And practiced the magic of the sword to transform his body, Neville, more like a whetstone to sharpen a sword. And Hagrid, the gift Ryan gave him was the simplest, is no need to send out the hatch Charmander like Harry did in his first year. He had the ability to tame it and hide it in the Forbidden Forest so that no one could find it. Unless he wants to. It was 9 o'clock. The room soon became lively. Harry, who had just fallen asleep, was awakened by the screams of Ryan and others. Great. Ryan gave me the unpublished copy of Doraemon. Me. Harry put on his glasses, now alone. Everyone else is already up. The dormitory was filled with the sound of people opening presents. Harry suddenly lost his sleepiness. He got up wearing the same socks Dobby had given him. He ran to the bedside and looked for the gifts he had wanted to open for a long time, but had not opened them until now in order to be with the others. The first thing Harry opened was naturally the gift from his roommate, the book Advanced Study of the Flying Spell. Ron, you? Oh, yes, Ryan probably also knows the flying spell that Crewman I recommended. Harry realized beautifully that the book in his hand looked different to other people. Neville on the side seemed to have opened Ryan's gift first, accompanied by a flash of fire and Neville's exclamation of joy. Neville seemed quite happy. Wait, Ryan? I didn't get him a gift, what? About others, he must have gone to Boxburton's early this morning, what luck. He's Miss Delacour's partner, Anthony, Terry, and Michael exclaimed, you? No, oh, how sensible. Harry said halfway through his words, and quickly pretended to be the same as them, and winked at Ron. Stopped Ron from saying anything. Harry was very surprised by what Anthony and the other two said. Now, Ryan's existence no longer seems to be a secret. As far as the other three people in their dorm were concerned, they had remembered Ryan. And it seemed as if he had never been ignored. And they probably haven't remembered Ryan's face yet. Or rather ignored him. Otherwise, they wouldn't be confused or even amazed that Ryan could be Furion's dance partner. Weasley sweater that Mrs. Weasley ordered every year and put it on. Ron, Neville and I hurried out of the bedroom. They met up with Ginny in the common room and went downstairs for breakfast. And talked about Ryan. What? So Ryan is really going to go public with that vixen? Isn't this very unfair to Luna? In front of the entrance hall, after finishing their meal, Ginny, who was walking with Harry and the others, stopped and her face turned red with anger. Harry on the side wanted to say that if there was any injustice, it should have been Hermione who came first. But as a boy, his desire to survive told him that it was better not to say that. Harry looked out at the field, unsure of how to form his words. The field was covered with white snow, and almost no one had stepped on it. There was only a trail of deep footprints left by the students from Durmstrang, Boxburton's, and Castellabishire as they returned to the castle. Fight. Harry was silent for a long time before he finally said this. Are you still in the mood for a snowball fight? Luna is going to be cheated. Do you have any conscience? Ginny looked at Ron again, and you, what are you looking at? Have you seen Ryan? I want to talk to him. Harry and Neville looked at each other. Decided it's better not to speak. Let Ron, the older brother, handle it. If you're listening to this novel on a channel other than Fanfic World, it means they downloaded and uploaded it without effort. We cordially invite you to visit our channel, Mundo Fanfic Novelis. There you'll find the original version of this story and you can explore many other novels of various genres. We're waiting for you to immerse yourself in a world of incredible novels. Chapter 654 Before the Dance. Ryan disappeared early in the morning. Do not ask me, what? If Luna volunteered for this, let's go find Ryan. Just under 3 minutes in the silence of Harry and Neville, Ron couldn't take it anymore. However, now in the impression of everyone at Hogwarts, all of them have the concept of the existence of Ryan Smith. Even though the four searched the entire castle, they couldn't find a single hair of Ryan. What's even more outrageous is that there is no trace of Luna and Hermione. But the two of them are like Ryan before, didn't know they existed. Except for Harry and the others who knew Ryan. However, Harry also knew that their current student union president Penelope and Kate had also disappeared. But in order not to irritate Ginny, he still said nothing. Cribbage wizard shortbread cookies. But these didn't make Harry and the others happy. Even Ron, who gets pleasure from food, is like this. Ron seemed to be thinking of only one thing now, going back to the lounge to have a good rest. But luckily, Lavender and Hannah showed up and Ginny walked towards the hall. Before they got close, they heard Ron wailing, "No Christmas tea? I didn't have a full lunch." At this time, Harry and Ginny also approached the Ravenclaw table. "I just happened to hear Lavender's consolation. There's a dance today. Also have to prepare for the dance. See you then." Ron understood what Lavender meant. But because of this, he looked very surprised. "What? You need 3 hours? What's wrong with 3 hours?" Ginny said this before Lavender could reply. She took out a portable mirror and looked at herself. "I can't lose to that vixen. I want to win back Luna's too." Ginny's eyes flashed with fire in the lounge. Then, she disappeared into the crowd with Lavender. Hannah followed suit and said goodbye to Neville. Some female students around who heard this conversation also ran to the dormitory apparently, although Ginny didn't name any names. But when it comes to foxy girls, They all think of the person who outshines the entire Hogwarts right now, the Boxburton's warrior Fleur Dracula, and the male students, such as Ron and Harry. Harry, they're all crazy. No matter how much makeup you put on or how many beauty potions you drink. How can they compare with Furin? Yet, just like I'm not on the same level as Ryan no matter what. Neville stroked his chin and said, maybe they just don't want to lose too badly. The common room looked strange. The people inside were no longer wearing black robes, but colorful ceremonial robes. Harry and the others also changed into dress robes in the bedroom. They were waiting awkwardly in the lounge for their respective dance partners. This time, Harry wore the silver robe that Draco gave him. Ron, standing next to him, changed into a green robe that looked like a dragon skin cloak. Neville simply dressed. She was wearing a plain blue robe with some subtle dark blue stripes as decoration. Just when they were getting impatient, Ginny walked into the lounge with Lavender and Hannah, who were still a little reluctant to leave into the Ravenclaw girls' dormitory. Yet, the decor inside is completely different from Gryffindor's. How should I put it? It's more elegant and suitable for girls to live in. Except that it's a little cold. There's no downside. Cold? No. Are you Hufflepuffs different? We were in the basement and it was warm. Of course, Slytherin is an exception. They are next to the Black Lake and it is not a place for people to stay except in summer. Just when Lavender and Hannah were about to talk about the architectural layout of Hogwarts, Ron interrupted tactlessly, we should get going. Go to the auditorium. Yes. Ginny nodded repeatedly. She already regretted bringing Lavender and Hannah to her dorm. They have a lot to say. It felt like 100 ducks were quacking in her ears. She looked at Harry quickly, we are leading the dance today. How about now? Harry hesitated. He was going to wait in the hallway now, where he would undoubtedly attract a lot of attention. After all, he is so popular. And his female companion appeared, it would be the same. However, Harry didn't have time to feel bothered by the amount of stars that were making his scalp tingle. Those students who were looking for their dance partners also stopped. It must be that Vix and Fleur. Ginny said hatefully in a low voice, regret it. I want to break up. Who is he? He is glowing. He is my god. Lane Smith. This name was deeply engraved in my heart 2 years ago. But, why would I forget? Maybe, men can, too. On the other hand, it seemed that someone thought of another person from Smith's last name. Some impatient girls and boys even started fighting. Get over here. Zacharias. Do you know him? Zacharias shook his head in fear. Then he was pushed to the ground. No doubt, Harry knew that it was Ryan who showed up. Ryan's appearance seemed to capture his heart. Even Ginny was like this. She was just about to step forward to argue for Luna. But the moment she saw Ryan now, her face flushed. I couldn't help but fall on top of everyone. So this is what Ryan really looks like. Luna, no, I can too. No. I'm engaged. Ginny forced herself to turn her head and buried herself in Harry's arms. Chapter 655, Friendship Turns Bad. Except for Ginny, other witches who had a good relationship with their boyfriends and had strong willpower were able to control themselves. But for Ryan, it was a bit embarrassing. Because, among the witches who had the confidence to face him without feeling inferior and looked up at him, there were too many familiar faces. Well known. Kate is very well informed. Correspondingly, the shadows she borrowed came from a wide range of sources. Plus her current physical strength. Ryan didn't dare to say that he had had some negative distance contact with these witches to some extent. But that's about it. Among them, Ryan is more familiar with the twins. Because Kate likes to switch around and let Ryan guess who her appearance refers to. And it's beautiful. The only ones who meet this condition are Padma and Parvati. There were only the Montgomery sisters in the 2nd grade in 6th year. Their little brother was bitten by the werewolf Fenrir Greyback because their mother refused to help the Death Eaters. Their younger brother was only 5 years old and died in St. Mungo's Hospital because he was too young. In addition, Ryan was also impressed by Angelina Johnson. Although she is black, she is good looking. This is different from the so-called pretty faces that Hollywood deliberately selected before Ryan traveled through time and did not conform to the public's aesthetic standards. She is a chaser, with a special healthy beauty and just the right amount of muscles. In short, it's particularly exciting to be with Kate's version of her. Of course, Hannah, Pansy, Ginny and others were not among them. They just didn't look like what Ryan was looking for. When Ryan was emptying his mind, trying his best not to let it become too yellow, Harry was immersed in Ryan's grace at the moment. Little if it's Ryan, then he can do it too. Ryan was wearing a silver gray satin robe, simple and elegant. But it didn't affect her beauty at all. His face is very white. But it was neither pale nor bleak. It is a color as crystal clear and moist as white jade. Although his eyes were a terrifying white. But on his face, he looked particularly harmonious together with his glowing skin and eyes, creates a unique yet universal beauty. This aesthetic tends to be neutral. Not as masculine and gentle as the sun that shines upon the world, nor is it as soft and closed as the moon shining alone in the dark night. It is only given to people, a feeling. This is the ultimate expression of beauty. Furin, who was standing beside him, was wearing the same silver gray satin robe as Ryan, but no longer dazzling. She is still as beautiful as ever, and her every frown and smile is captivating. If Ryan hadn't been there, she would have been the focus of the crowd, but now she is like the green leaves beside the flowers. Although it is bright and green, it is just a foil. Harry. Harry. It's Draco. He pushed Harry's back. Oh. Thank you. Harry quickly turned his eyes away from Ryan. He seemed to be about to turn into Dumbledore. Draco was wearing a high-collared black velvet robe, and Harry thought he looked like a parish priest. Pansy, wearing a light pink robe with many ruffles, held Malfoy's arm tightly and buried her head in her arms like Ginny. Crabbe and Goyle were both dressed in green, like two large moss-covered rocks. They were all alone and seemed to have no dance partners. As Harry watched Draco and his friends, Draco started pushing and shoving Ron again, but the strange thing was that Ron's eyes were looking at Harry. Hey! Ron Weasley! What do you mean? Ginny, who was immersed in Ryan, finally broke free from her restraints. Now she just felt that the hat was a little green when Ron was attracted by Ryan's undoubted beauty. It was not lavender in his arms that he chose to use to break free, but Harry, her boyfriend. This is a subconscious action, and I can't lie. Harry, are you serious about taking a half step back? Ron ignored Ginny's questioning. He has long been used to it. His friendship with Harry, from birth, from the first grade until now, many wizards have made ridiculous speculations about it. Although this is a bit rude, this is a subconscious action, and it cannot be faked. I see Professor McGonagall. She is the vice president and she will host the dance. Harry hurriedly pulled Ginny through the nearly demented students. Walked towards Professor McGonagall. The door to the front hall is now open. A lawn in front of the castle was turned into a cave statue. The statues appear to be Santa Claus and his reindeer. As Harry approached, he also realized later that he wasn't just moving closer to Professor McGonagall. Still getting closer to Ryan and the others. His subconscious took control of him and he moved closer to them. However, this also allowed him to hear Furin's voice. Her voice is still pleasant and full of sexy French accent. Content of Furin's words: this design is plagiarized the entire castle and the lawn in front of it. I saw him when I came to your house for Christmas. Then came Ryan's voice. Is there a possibility it was I who foresaw these images and transformed them into the decoration of the castle? Ryan's foresight and its content did not surprise Harry. He just held Ginny's tightly. Now he found that his heart, which was trembling because of Ryan, did not stop beating. Ryan's clear, textured voice awakened that forbidden feeling. You're blushing like a bubble teapot, Harry. Ryan's voice rang out again. However, this time it was like a cool spring that poured into his just burning heart. He finally came to his senses. He found himself almost buried in Ginny's breasts. Ryan's words came to my ears again. It seemed to be directed at Furin. I just said, I still need to tone down my charm. Otherwise this Christmas party will be a failure and Dumbledore will be here soon. Chapter 656, A True Warrior? Ryan Smith. Harry had no idea how Ryan operated. It seems that Ryan has really reduced his charm. Harry looked at Ryan, still so charming. But it could no longer arouse the throbbing in his heart. The hallway, which had been quiet just a moment ago, became noisy again. Professor McGonagall in front of them also shook her head as if she had just woken up from a dream. Found traces of Harry and the others. But Ryan's deliberate distance from him proved that everything that just happened was not false. The students around him were still amazed at Ryan's handsomeness. But the conversation also began to be filled with sour remarks about Ryan about becoming Furin's dance partner. And admiration for Hibiscus beauty. This was not possible before. At this time, Professor McGonagall's voice sounded, Warriors, please come over here. She was wearing a red tartan gown, and her hat brim was decorated with a hidden wreath of thistles. She looked at Harry deeply, as if observing whether he was dressed properly as the lead dancer of Hogwarts. After confirming everything and scanning Ryan's face, after a moment of praise and daze, "Just keep speaking," he told them to wait by the door and let others go in first. After all the students were seated, they lined up and walked into the auditorium. He and Ginny stood closest to he is Fleur's boyfriend you mentioned, a very powerful wizard. Krum poked Harry on the back and asked the Slytherin girl next to Krum looked at Fleur jealously, then at Ryan with fascination. He taunted reluctantly, "Harry Potter lied to you. That can charming, don't." That Ryan Smith was Porter's roommate. "He must be afraid that you might steal Mr. Smith's dance partner." "No, he is very strong. I can't predict the future now. Because of his existence." Elvis interrupted. The girl from Castrobuse next to him exclaimed. "Elvis." The Slytherin girl smiled coldly. Plus she couldn't say anything disrespectful to Ryan. Just shut up, choose to say nothing. "That's amazing. I thought he was just good looking." Krum sighed. He seemed about to say something else, but the door to the auditorium opened. Led by the professor, the students walked slowly past girl, but none of them seemed very firm. It was completely different from what Harry had observed before. But after seeing the jealous and hateful looks they cast at Fearing and the tears in their eyes when they looked at Ryan, Harry understood. Don't have to worry too much about that. The dancing will be after you have enjoyed the delicious food. Professor McGonagall's voice came from behind him. She paused and said comfortingly, "I heard from Phileas that your dancing skills are already very good. Just let you and your dance partner perform well later. All right, all of you warriors, follow me. Everyone is already seated. Just follow this cue." So, they filed in, following Professor McGonagall's steps towards the large round table at the front of the hall where the judges were sitting. The people in the auditorium applauded enthusiastically. The auditorium is now completely changed. The walls are covered with glittering silver frost. There is a starry night sky on the ceiling. There were also hundreds of wreaths made of mistletoe sprigs and ivy. The 6 tables representing the college and the school were gone, replaced by 100 small tables with lanterns lit, with a dozen people sitting at each table. Harry was somewhat relieved that all eyes were on Ryan now. It seems that Ryan is the real warrior and they were just supporting him. Mr. Weasley, who was wearing a new navy blue robe tonight, waved to him and Ginny, and pulled out the 2 empty chairs next to him. Madame Maxime she had her usual black satin uniform and was wearing a flowing lavender gown. She imitated Mr. Weasley's actions and extended an invitation to Ryan and Fleur. Mrs. Vakhanova was wearing a dress robe that was only slightly different in style from the ones worn by Elvis and the others. She also extended an invitation to Elvis and the others. The end result was that Karkaroff sat alone. Krum and the Slytherin girl sat next to Dumbledore and Ginny sat next to Mr. Weasley. "Harry, Ginny, long time no see," Mr. Weasley said cheerfully as they sat down. Then he spoke to them affectionately about the other children, and started asking some questions. Why didn't Percy find a dance partner? Who is the dancing partner of the Dark Beauty next to Fred and George? Ron and Lavender. Ron mentioned during the holidays that Mr. Weasley had seen a picture of her. We're on good terms, replied. Percy said he is in 7th grade. Busy reviewing. No time. And Fred and George, you know Dad, they do everything together. As for Ron, what's wrong with Ron? Did he say something wrong again and make Lavender angry? Ron, he's fine, Ginny said with her hand covering her mouth and laughing. Harry, on the other hand, focused his attention on the dining table. It is quite normal to have no food on the golden plate. House elves can use magic to deliver food through the air. But surprisingly, each of them had a small menu in front of them. Harry picked up his menu uncertainly and looked around. There was already food on Ryan's plate. Dumbledore seemed to notice Harry's doubts. He looked over his menu carefully. Then, looking at his plate, he said very clearly, "Pork chops." Chapter 657, Shadow of Time. Regret. Extremely regret. Ryan never thought of one thing. That's why Madame Maxime and Fleur have such a good relationship, as good as mother and daughter in the original world line. Although Fearing and she are both mixed blood witches, but she didn't take Fearing's male companion too seriously. Her relationship with Fearing is more like that between a principal and her outstanding student. It all depends on Fearing and her male companion communicating together. Almost ignore them. But now, Fleur with Ryan, behave yourself well in school. The excellence that far exceeds the original world line seems to have brought the two closer together. This was beyond Ryan's expectations. This also led to the fact that Madame Maxime was asking Ryan questions like a mother-in-law. What's your name? How old are you? Where to live? There are endless topics like "Are you serious about Furin?" and so on. And Furin was obviously happy to see this scene. With a smile on his face, he put his hand on his chin and watched Ryan's embarrassing scene. Before, he was stared at by the boys, and even his friendship with Harry, his roommate, almost deteriorated. However, he could not have imagined that even after traveling through time, he would still face questioning from his aunts and uncles. Furthermore, Ryan couldn't stand the gazes from Harry and Dumbledore not far away. You know, Dumbledore likes men, and Harry just had bad intentions towards him. However, Ryan could still barely bear it. This is all because, although Ryan was tortured at Hogwarts, others were not. Some of them are quite happy. Ryan becomes Furin's dance partner and is going to announce this to the whole school. Naturally, Penelope and the others are very unhappy about this. So why are they all gone now? Safely let Ryan become Fleur's dancing partner? This is actually related to the conditions that Ryan promised them. The easiest ones to coax were undoubtedly Hermione and Luna. As for Hermione, Ryan just took her to the library in Atlantis. Luna, Ryan was also able to appeal by going to Sweden to see the scimitar horn snorkeler. The second is Penelope. Ryan took her to the Moon City, about 24 miles from Earth. Although the actual time consumed is quite long, it is still worthwhile for Ryan, and in the end, Kate chose to let Ryan take her back to the past. He said he wanted to take a look at the Hogwarts of the past, through Shadows time, 1971, in the shadows of Hogwarts. Kate, why did you bring me to the dormitory? Looking at the familiar Ravenclaw bedroom in front of him, Ryan was a little confused. After all, it's not easy to go back to the past. Lily Evans just started school at this time, so did Kate's parents. He had thought Kate was going to check on her young parents under the cover of his magic. Kate bit her lower lip and blinked. Came to Ryan's four-poster bed. When she turned around, her shape and appearance changed. Her voice, too. There is a deep arrogance in it. Who are you? How come I'm here? Tell me. Her face was very smooth and surprisingly white. But like the voice, it revealed contemplate deep in the bones. There was indifference in her sapphire eyes and her thin lips were pursed harshly. My last name is Black. Lucius Malfoy is my fiancé. She snapped haughtily. But he took a step back. A nail that Ryan swore was not there on the edge of the four-poster bed suddenly appeared and caught her robed ear. The slender and fair body appeared in front of Ryan. A ray of sunlight came from nowhere and shone on her body through the window. It seems to be glowing. Kate, you don't have to be so realistic. This is Draco's mother, although she is only 16 years old now, I think. Gentleman. Ryan decided to refuse unexpected. Well, since that's what you want, I'll take it as your consent. Ryan could only sigh. Accept it all because Narcissa in front of him didn't speak. I just accidentally fell into bed again. Besides, being Furin's dance partner was a bit unfair in choice himself. Ryan had no but to give up his noble character and sacrifice himself to feed the tiger. Wait a minute. Don't want Lily Evans. She has just started school. Molly Weasley. After 8 hours, Ryan had a sad face. Looks like it has returned to its original state. Kate, who was dressed, asked, how can I live like this? You said Lily Evans was too young after finishing the work. We returned to 1971. It's like he's afraid of missing the other shows I've scheduled like Molly Weasley. Ahem, I'm always passive as you requested as to why it was 1976. That's because you scared me. This caused an error in the time positioning. Ryan replied helplessly. This Kate just know how to pass the buck. Is he that kind of person? He then let's go to the 11th century. Rowena Ravenclaw is so great. Her daughter's ghost is still at Hogwarts. In response, Kate gave her a look that said, did I say I wanted to borrow Ravenclaw's shadow? I just wanted to see the new Hogwarts. I mean, there were so many powerful wizards in that era. Maybe there are still gods who are not dead yet. We can't go like this with a potential for future consequences. I'll take that as it is. This is the arrangement for everyone except Furin. This is why Ryan could endure for so long. Being a friend's father is such a wonderful thing. And in reality, he didn't really do anything. What's wrong with being with your girlfriend? The answer is of course yes. Then, in this atmosphere, mealtime is over. Dumbledore stood up. Since everyone has already eaten, then it's time to dance. Okay, everyone stand up. Tall stage and attached it to the right wall, on which were placed a drum set, several guitars, a lute, a cello and several organs. Let's welcome the Weird Sisters. Then, 8 wizards in deliberately tattered black robes emerged from the back door of the auditorium and streamed onto the stage. The audience burst into thunderous applause. Chapter 658 Rose Garden and Fairies. I'm the lead singer, Myron Wagtail. Names one by one, they were about to start playing. "I think I've seen the Heathkit Barbary before," said Harry. Ryan, who had gotten rid of Madame Maxime's entanglement, yawned and replied, "When we were in the 1st grade, he was in the 7th grade. A Gryffindor talking student." Seeing Ryan finally to him, Harry wanted to say something. But suddenly, the lanterns on the other tables went out. Fleur, Ryan, the other warriors and their dance partners all stood up. "I think, Harry, it's time for you and Ginny to lead the dance," Ryan whispered. As he finished his words, the magical ceiling above cast a beam of white light over Harry and Ginny. Everyone looked at them. Dumbledore and Mr. Weasley on the side were the first to applaud. This was followed by thunderous applause. The Weird Sisters played a slow, sad tune. Harry and Ginny held hands and walked onto the now darkened dance floor, illuminated by the lights from above. Fortunately, the training during these days allowed him to make no mistakes under the bright lights and the watchful eyes of everyone. He skillfully placed his left hand on Ginny's waist, and with his right hand he pulled Ginny and started spinning in circles. Then, blue beams of light shot down from the ceiling, falling on the other warriors and their partners' dance floor, the slow waltz where he and Ginny kept spinning in circles. Ryan and Fleur chose the Paso Doble. Ryan is as majestic and powerful as a bullfighter, and his steps are clean and neat. Fleur in Ryan's footsteps, step by step, with a heroic and charming dance. Soon, many people entered the dance floor, and except for Ryan and Fleur, the other warriors were no longer the center of attention. Dumbledore and Professor McGonagall jumped together. Judging from Dumbledore's brisk, Madame Maxime danced a waltz with Hagrid. However, for such a large woman, she dances very gracefully. Hagrid, on the other hand, clumsily followed Madame Maxime's guidance, controlling his feet stiffly. I don't know how much time passed. When Harry heard the organ play the last trembling note, he couldn't help but breathe a sigh of relief. Because it means the end of the song. Weird Sisters stopped playing and the hall burst into warm applause again. Harry immediately pulled Ginny off the dance floor. "Let's find a place to sit down." "Okay." Ginny agreed. At this time, the Weird Sisters started playing a new song, with a much faster tempo than before. Soon, they found Ron and Lavender in the corner, who had also escaped from the dance floor. "I knew it. What's so good about dancing?" Harry just took the beer. No conversation. Because he noticed that Lavender was obviously still looking at the dance floor. Apparently, Ron's partner didn't enjoy dancing as much as he did. "Why don't we go for a walk? The professors seem to have used magic to build a lot of buildings that we haven't seen before," Harry suggested. 10 minutes later, outside the castle, Ron looked at everything in front of him in amazement. "Haha, let Neville and the others stay on the dance floor. Is this still Hogwarts?" What appeared before the four of them was a rose garden consisting of low bushes, ornately decorated winding paths, huge stone statues, and fountains sparkling in the moonlight. Especially since there was also fairy light flickering inside. And it seemed that they were not the only ones who sneaked out. Occasionally they could see people sitting on carved benches. Lower your head and be intimate. And in some of the flowers, there are sparse black shadows among them. The sounds of hum and ah were faintly visible under the splashes of the fountain. "Harry, why don't you and Ginny go first? Lavender and I are a little thirsty, so we're going to get some drinks," Ron said. But before Harry could answer, he took Lavender by the hand and walked towards the depths of the flowers in the opposite direction of the castle. Harry and Ginny could only continue to stroll along the path. It's unbelievable there are so many students outside. It seems like they are all still very busy. Are all the teachers in this school crazy? Build such a large garden outside the castle. I didn't even see any snow. Ginny looked furious. However, her voice was sharp and thin, like the buzz of a mosquito. He didn't look angry at all. Her ears turned red. He kept his eyes on the cobblestones as he spoke. "Harry." In response to this, Ryan's expression was very interesting as he finished dancing with Fleur on the dance floor. The rose garden outside the castle. It also appeared in the original world line. Even with everything that was shown in Harry's innocent eyes at that time, in vulgar term, it is a large, outdoor love hotel built by the school for students. In his thoughts, there are several pairs of men and women enjoying the great harmony of life among the flowers. Drew out his wand and drove away several pairs of men and women who were making out among the flowers. The rest of the professors turned a blind eye to this. Obviously, they are doing this to combat the declining birth rate in the wizarding world. Plus, guide these men and women onto the right path of magic in this world. No wonder, many students get married right after graduation. I guess except for the honest ones. For example, Harry in the original world line. Others probably lost their virginity around 5th grade. However, there was only one thing Ryan didn't understand. This was the main reason why he was now on the dance floor instead of finding a spot among the flowers to be with Fleur. That is, how they could tolerate these fairies among the flowers, making out in front of them. You know, these fairies look pretty much like human women. Just more wings. They are all very beautiful. Some of them are too small even before they have clothes on. But they never noticed this. It was as if these fairies were no different from the roses in the bushes and the birds lighting on the treetops. Chapter 659, A Night in the Rose Garden. Ryan fell into thinking again. Because this is a phenomenon he should have discovered long ago. He also kept a group of fairies in his Smith castle and used them as decorations. Fairies are all female and reproduce by laying eggs. They can use pollen as genetic material to combine with the eggs in their abdomen. Therefore, they are also called fairies. The pollen of different flowers will affect the color of the wings of the born fairies. For example, roses are red and hydrangeas are blue, also up to 3 inches across. They are also all around 5 inches tall. This data is enough to illustrate the point. They can actually have relationships with humans. And they are magical creatures. The body is not as fragile as it seems. However, no wizard has ever thought of this. Just use them as decoration, them for decoration. It is precisely because of this vanity that they keep dressing themselves up. But in order to avoid bringing disaster because of her beauty, there is a unique magic produced on their bodies. This magic is constant on them, preventing wizards and other creatures from having any sexual desire towards them. I just think they are beautiful. It's just like thinking that flowers are beautiful but not having any sexual desire for them. It was the same kind of magic that the Vila had. Just different branches. He was not affected by the fairies' magic at all. Hogwarts, in the middle of the dance floor, Fleur raised an eyebrow. You removed the spell, the one Ryan used to reduce his own charm, again. I just learned a new magic. It allows others to notice my beauty to the greatest extent, but no evil thoughts will arise. It's like I'm a beautiful oil painting, a flower rather than a person who can possess, fantasize, or vent those desires. Name, fairy. Light, what? A vulgar name. Wait, fairy? Could it be that? That's it. Don't you wonder why you've never thought of one thing? That's why those lecherous wizards never keep a fairy. On the contrary, only wizards who love art and value beauty will raise them, use them as decorative, glowing bulbs. Ryan, you won't. Furin showed a disgusted look. Ryan pinched Furin's rear fat to express his dissatisfaction. We are discussing academic issues now. That gloomy male professor at your school likes to raise them. I saw it at the edge of the Forbidden Forest. With all his dignity and greasy hair, his love of beauty and art. Regenerative, just like human nails and hair. Even having its wings plucked off would not cause the fairy any pain. It won't hurt them either. Just like your nails and hair. This would only make them very vain. Obviously, what you saw was just Snape replenishing fresh fairy wings. Noticing that the surroundings had returned to normal, with only pure appreciation of beauty remaining, Ryan added, okay, how about we try cutting another dance move, tango? Celebrating my freedom from troubles. As you wish. At 12 o'clock midnight, the Weird Sisters stopped playing, and everyone gave them a last round of applause before heading to their respective lounges. Ryan and Furin walked towards the entrance hall, outside the castle. However, this did not surprise others. It is perfectly normal to send your dance partner home. But, think differently than others. Ryan had no intention of sending Fleur back to Boxburton's in the carriage. Fairy uses the pollen of the magical plant Fire Rose as genetic material. Will the fairy born be unusual? Although the fairy's eggs are laid on the back of the leaves, the hatched larvae will not spin into cocoons until 6 to 10 days later, and the adult fairy will not emerge from the cocoons until another month later. But this did not affect Ryan and Furin's advance observation. The only bad thing is thirsty, so we could only help each other, and Ryan and Fleur weren't the only ones spending the night out. Even the headmistress of Boxburton's, Madame Maxime, did not follow the rules and go back to the carriage to rest, but in the rose garden with Hagrid. Although Ron and Lavender did not stay overnight, they ran back to the castle hand in hand at 1 o'clock in the morning. But this is a matter of Ron's physical strength. In addition, Lavender learned to be sensitive under the education of Trelawney and Parvati. Ron was not allowed to take the final step. So, Harry and Ginny did not return to the castle. I chose the rose bush. They seemed to be heated too. The next morning, All sounds are silent. A fairy with red wings yawned cutely. It drank sips of the dew from the rose petals immediately. Along with it, there were groups of colorful fairies that were equally frightened and flew into the air. Harry with a sound, then, figures with disheveled hair and dirty faces, covering their heads with robes, ran out from the flowers in twos and threes. However, 3 of the unlucky ones were stopped by this uninvited guest: Fred, George, Angelina. How come you wait? Did you see Harry and Ginny? I noticed that Harry was not in the dormitory early in the morning, and I didn't see them in the common room either. Angelina pulled her hair back, kissed Fred and George respectively, and then left. And Fred and George, Merlin's beard. You mean Ginny, and many more. Didn't I see you in lavender last night, too? Afternoon, Fred. I think it will last until at least the beginning of January, when the Christmas holidays are over, and the next term starts. Obviously, after a brief moment of surprise, the 2 of them went off topic. Don't you understand? Ron clapped his hands 3 times quickly, making a snap, snap, snap sound. My little brother, you are so naive. Aren't they engaged already? With a handy spell cleanup, we don't have to worry. Yes, little Ronnie, you don't have to worry about becoming an uncle just like that. Chapter 660 Ron's Big Mistake. On the second day of Christmas, everyone got up late. But this excludes those who spend the night in the Rose Garden. They all have Ron brand alarm clocks. Get up early. Just happened to coincide with a freshly baked breakfast in the auditorium. But they were not angry. Instead, they were excitedly whispering to each other at the dining table, discussing whether anyone had seen Harry and Ginny, the fact that I was able to compete on the same stage with my idol last night. They were shaking with excitement. And the other side. Harry, lying in the flowers, felt a pair of small hands sliding on his body. Stop it, Ginny. Harry was a little confused, but soon he came to his senses. Ginny was helping him get dressed to cleanse spells on himself and Ginny. He pulled up his pants, straightened his robe, and put on his glasses. All in one go. You, so fast. Ginny was stunned. Only now did she understand the power of Harry's body transforming magic. Last night doesn't count. Just now, she hadn't come to her senses yet. Harry's whole figure twisted. The delayed images in his own figure, caused by his high-speed movement, were transformed into extremely strange shapes. It was like if he had several arms and heads. But she didn't have time to register this scene in her mind, as she felt a cool sensation of being cleaned and the feeling of several parts of her body being touched almost at the same time. Harry got dressed and so did she. There are no wrinkles on the clothes. It was as if nothing had happened. She even noticed that her hair was straightened. And all this happened just 1 second after Harry said, "Stop it, Ginny." It was like a dream. Harry lifted the protective spells he had set up around him and cleared away any signs that they had spent the night here. The faint smell of weather in the air also disappeared. Then he asked, "Who is coming over?" Harry wasn't nervous. Now, even if he and Ginny were discovered, they could just lie and say they were just taking an early morning walk. "I'm not afraid even if Dumbledore eats garden. It's that bastard Ron Weasley," he screamed so loud. "Lest anyone know we're staying here tonight." Ginny stroked her wand. It seemed as if he was thinking about casting some vicious curses on Ron. What? How dare he? How come he's here so early? Harry's first reaction was surprised behavior Ron will do. This time, indirectly promoting spending the night in the Rose Garden with Ginny was a normal thing for Ron. Let's take a detour and find an empty classroom. Pretend to be drunk and wake up there. Took Ginny's hand and walked out of the flowers angrily, following the winding path towards the castle. On the other side, there was a patch of roses that was ignored by all wizards. Ryan and Fleur yawned together. Floating above them were images of Ron in the Rose Garden and of Harry and Ginny talking. The 2 of them leaned against each other, both dressed, lying among the flowers, looking at everything above them. Could this red-haired brat have drunk too much of the inferior brain stimulant? Fleur raised her eyebrows. Ron, who was still looking for Harry and Ginny after saying goodbye to Fred and George, looked up with disdain. Luckily, Gabrielle isn't like him. Wait, I just noticed now, where's Gabrielle? I didn't see her at the dance. Have you forgotten? Gabrielle is only 7 years old. She is not eligible for the Yule Ball. As for now, she should sleep in the carriage. Fleur paused, then she added, "Doesn't this Weasley brat understand what I'm saying?" Both of his brothers had said that this would not be good for the Potter boy and his mate. They are also engaged. Why is this red-haired kid still like this? For that matter, if Ron's brother Bill were here, he was probably the same as Ron, except that he wouldn't yell to let anyone know that Harry and Ginny were staying the night. Still a little girl, Ginny, this is out of line. It's like you knew Gabrielle had a boyfriend. Then I will definitely cast the most vicious curse. Well, I admit that in this regard, Ron Weasley is a good brother. I'm not finished yet. The reason why Ron was like this was that he had always had a feeling for Harry that went beyond friendship, almost like the relationship between Dumbledore and Grindelwald. This aspect is the main factor. After all, he had seen Harry and Ginny being intimate hundreds of times during the summer vacation. He should have gotten used to this a long time ago. Ryan's words had just fallen. The two images in the sky gradually merged into one, and Harry, Ginny, and Ron met. Ron Weasley. How dare you? Ginny broke free from Harry's hand, drew her wand and pointed it at Ron. Armor. An invisible vertical wall immediately appeared between Ron and Ginny. Ginny, said Harry. Calm down. How can I stay calm? Ginny's wand trembled slightly. Because of my dear brother, now almost the whole school knows what happened between Harry and me. Before he came here and shouted your name and my name, did he think about what the consequences would be for us? Ron's surprise at finding the two people turned into horror. But when he noticed Harry's protective spell, he straightened his chest again. After hearing the word brother, I felt like I had found the winning code. He quickly said, you still know that I am your brother. It is because I am your brother that I cannot allow you permission? When did Harry and I ever need your permission? Ginny dropped her wand. Rushing forward, she seemed to want to hit every inch of Ron she could reach. When did you become like Bill? Bad, can you? Or did you try to force it, but Lavender refused? Nausea. If you're listening to this novel on a channel other than Fanfic World, it means they downloaded and uploaded it without effort. We cordially invite you to visit our channel, Mundo Fanfic Novelis. There you'll find the original version of this story, and you can explore many other novels of various genres. We're waiting for you to immerse yourself in a world of incredible novels. Chapter 661, Enemy of the People. It looked like Ron and Ginny's brother-sister relationship was over. They were both furious, and Harry had no idea how their relationship could be repaired. And this is obviously a long-standing grudge. This incident was just a fuse. Ron was angry that Ginny never took his concerns seriously and never even called him brother man. Ginny angrily said that Ron didn't even see her as an independent individual, and ever since the day she and Harry started dating, Ron had been trying to insert another abnormal relationship between her and Harry. This time, Ron didn't indulge in a warm bed and a freshly baked breakfast. But I chose to come to the Rose Garden to find them. It's not because I'm afraid my sister will go astray. But he was jealous that she and Harry could be so close. Harry personally thought that Ginny had gone too far, and tried to point out to Ginny that Ron was indeed being a jerk about this. But the relationship between him and Ron was healthy, and Ginny's speculations were nonsense. At this time, she also got with him. Well, stand by Ron, I know you will, she said tartly. After all, you two are good enough to share a bed, go to the toilet, take a shower, etc. together. Sometimes I even wonder who your girlfriend is. Harry felt very aggrieved. He had clearly said at the beginning that Ron was a bastard. In this matter there was no mention of Ron doing this for Ginny's own good. Besides, hasn't he already made his attitude clear to her by taking action this summer? In response to this, some people stood up to speak fair words like Draco. In a sense, Harry, your relationship with Ron is a little unhealthy. You can tell from the fact that your romance with Ron was always a headline on the Daily Prophet before Sirius bought it. Ron, don't forget you're one of them. I was involved by you. And Neville also clearly stood on Ginny's side. He said that this time Ron was completely wrong. So does Harry more hurtful to a girl like Ginny? However, Ron expressed his doubts. Are you really not doing this to show off in front of Hannah? Harry believed this a little, especially when he saw Hannah's irrepressible admiration for Neville. And Neville's mouth curled up unconsciously. Lavender, who had just learned about this matter from her best friend Parvati in the afternoon, also clearly stood on Ginny's side. The others, and probably Mr. and Mrs. Weasley and the others, condemned Ron's outrageous behavior. They also dragged Ron into an empty classroom and gave him a 4-hour ideological education. Apparently, he and Ron knew was on Ginny's side. Everyone now. But Harry felt very aggrieved. Wait until after the holidays to remove it, even after the professors know what happened. But now the person who accompanied him to the Rose Garden was gone. He couldn't go with Ron. Otherwise, The relationship between him and Ron would never be cleared up, even if he jumped into the Thames. Hogsmeade Village dispelled such thoughts. It looks like a Christmas card. The huts and shops were covered with a layer of crisp snow. There are wreaths of holly on the doors of every house. Magic candles were hung in strings on the trees. Even more bizarrely, he saw Ryan and Hermione, who had disappeared all day yesterday, here. The two of them were talking to each other in front of Honeydukes. He walked a little closer and heard Hermione saying to Ryan, "Mom and Dad actually like those fluffy teeth mints you bought from Honeydukes. Instead of the vampire teeth model I gave you. This is not magic." They clearly said that they wanted to see what real vampire teeth looked like. "The gift I chose is more suitable for them as dentists." Harry spoke quickly. Harry was frowning. He knew Ryan must have spotted him. He also wanted to know why Ryan didn't point him out. But now he understood that he was a prop to amuse Hermione's attention. From the conversation just now, Hermione seemed very dissatisfied. Because her parents preferred Ryan's random gifts. Not what she had carefully prepared. Sure enough, when seeing Harry coming, Hermione asked him, "Please give us your opinion. Did you pick this gift randomly?" Mayo mints are a kind of sugar-free. It can also bring an extreme freezing feeling to the oral cavity and the entire gums. Candies that won't hurt your teeth. "And your parents happen to be dentists," said Harry. He still chose to support Ryan. After all, Ryan is the key to his mother's resurrection. And Hermione was just someone she was very familiar with at the beginning. Nodding acquaintances, Ryan clapped his hands. "Well said. Look at Harry, how perceptive they are. I noticed a blind spot right away. Didn't you notice that I only bought one kind of candy, from the wide variety of candy, Honeydukes? I chose one. Isn't that obvious?" Harry noticed that Hermione's eyes were becoming increasingly dangerous. In order to prevent Hermione from whispering bad things about Ryan and affecting his position in Ryan's heart, Harry quickly added, "This is actually related to the fact that the vampire tooth model was given by you, Hermione. Although I have no parents." Harry noticed Hermione's eyes soften. "But I also know that usually, for those who are closer, especially family, often more impolite, even harsh. Be careful about the gifts, even if the gifts from family members are really better than those from outsiders and more attentive. But most people can only see the intention behind gifts given by outsiders. As for family members, I will just accept it as a matter of course. Can't even see. I think, if this gift is from Ryan, the evaluation will be completely different." There is another chapter that will be posted later. Chapter 662. Ryan almost fell. Harry tactfully left Ryan and Hermione. After a brief greeting, the cold wind blew alone on the street. Just like he is now. Although he was wearing thin clothes, he did not feel cold because of his extraordinary physical fitness. But Hogsmeade is deserted today. Plus the sweeping snowstorm, he inexplicably felt a coldness that had nothing to do with the temperature and came from the bottom of his heart. In Hogsmeade, the Three Broomsticks. It was crowded, noisy, warm and smoky, and a woman with a curvaceous figure and pretty face was tending to a group of noisy wizards at the bar. There's even a cannibal in there. A magical creature that is classified as human by the Ministry of Magic and is very similar to humans. His green tongue and pointy ears give him away. But it seemed that the wizards around him were all familiar with him. "Are you curious?" An ethereal voice came from his left. Harry turned his head quickly. Only then did I realize that it was Luna who was speaking. She was looking at him with her head tilted, her whole body leaning against Ryan. "I think about it, it should be Ryan himself." So, he quickly calmed down and agreed to Luna, "That's a ogre. You have to trust the Ministry on this." Even during the time when Fudge was Minister for Magic, the magical race defined non-wizards as humans. Ryan, you mean? This ogre can appear openly, which means he has never attacked humans. Well, in terms of how he deals with people, he might be better than the average wizard. After all, if they were not careful, the executioner McNeil would come and chop off their heads. Of course, we all know that McNeil is dead. Luna on the side poked Ryan, who was speaking. "Are you talking about Walton McNeil? My dad said on the Quibbler that he was cursed by a vampire. Because he chopped off too many vampires' heads." Ah. Ryan didn't. Harry was about to speak. It felt like an invisible force was gluing his mouth together. After Ryan gestured to him to shut up, the power disappeared again. Ryan nodded to Luna and said, "It's definitely a vampire. But this vampire is a little special. He is like a ghost, relying on possessing rats and snakes to regain his strength." "You're lying," Luna said. But there was a faint smile on the little face. 10 minutes later, Harry, who was sitting in the seat where Luna and Ryan had just sat, was very confused, holding a large cup of foaming hot butterbeer. It was obvious that McNeil was killed by Voldemort. This is the truth. Why did Ryan lie to Luna? Luna obviously knew that Ryan was lying. How could she not be angry? Girls look more at attitude rather than the facts. Ryan's voice was heard in the air. Then his figure appeared on the other side of the small table. But won't this spoil them? If you want to live together for a lifetime, you should be direct with each other, rather than just coaxing them. But Ginny and Luna are not such girls. The way men and women get along with each other varies from person to person. During the time from when you got to know each other to when you were dating, you were closer to each other than just physically. Spiritually too. You know Ginny well enough, what kind of person she is. For those who like to make trouble, just keep coaxing them. Treat them as children. If you want it to last long, you should also pay attention to looking over old accounts at the right time. Appropriately mention any facts you think should have been pointed out. For the usual gentleness, you may prefer to tell the truth. But even the gentlest girl can get angry sometimes. You should show that she is not wrong. His hands and feet became cold as he stood by the fireplace. Can this world ever be better? Why is it so difficult to make friends? If I had known earlier, boys will also be stared at by boys ago in this corrupt country of Britain. There is a lot of malice towards normal boys. Only a normal boy like him can stand up. Wait, Harry couldn't help but move his hips in the opposite direction away from Ryan. Ryan had previously created extra forms to accompany girls, Hermione, Luna and others. And now, next to him, there was Ryan, who was sitting especially with him. Combined with the 3 years that Ryan taught him in his dreams. Take him to Atlantis and Moon City. You know, besides him, the other person who went to Atlantis was Ryan's current girlfriend Hermione. Furthermore, Ryan also specifically instructed him how to resurrect his mother. Danger, danger, danger. Harry swallowed. Ryan, I only like Ginny. Ryan was so now that he wanted to laugh. Now Harry actually thought that he was the same angry as Dumbledore. So, in order to scare Harry, Ryan said deliberately ambiguously, "Do you really only like Ginny?" Cold sweat, like fine beads of sweat hitting the face like continuous spring rain, appeared on Harry's forehead. He hesitated. If he refuses, will it affect his mother's resurrection? The two of them began to fight fiercely in his head. One represents his love for Ginny and his own straight male integrity, and the other represents Ryan's kindness and longing for his mother. In the end, the latter won out. Real world in the eyes of others. 1 second after Ryan's words fell, Harry Potter on the other side first broke out in a cold sweat, then revealed an extremely shy smile. "If you really want me to." In this intense emotional fluctuation, Harry's perfect magic began to boil. Before the Christmas ball, that disappeared along with Ryan's concealment of his true beauty, the memory of Ryan's heartbeat at that time, it also came to mind. The shy smile on Harry's face began to develop into a sincere one. "Stop," Ryan said in English with a Trump accent in fear. He had no idea that Harry was so close to actually being able to do it. Ryan's magical accent and the magic attached to it also brought Harry back to his senses. Straighten again from half-bent. "I don't like you. What I question is the fact that you only like Ginny." "Chu Zhang, Ms. Gray is fake," Ryan said rudely. If possible, he would also like to talk about Bella. Chapter 663. The two people broke up. Ryan left, and left quickly. As if Harry was some kind of despicable trash. It was the first time he saw Ryan so flustered. He thought Ryan would always be in control of his situation. Even if the sky falls and Merlin is resurrected, Ryan will not change. But now, Harry discovered a secret. Ryan seemed to shy away from boys liking him. No, maybe it's just him. Because Harry had seen a boy express his love to Ryan during the sorting. Ryan wasn't like he is now then. However, this also meant that Harry had to stay alone in the bar and drink to pass the time. But it also distracted Harry from focusing on the small world around him. Looking around, he found a TV playing a wilderness adventure program hanging above the head of the bar owner, Ms. Rosmerta Griles. He is also an employee of Skywalker Alchemy Workshop. He emerged from his company's creative design competition and ended up with this show. However, I heard from a knowledgeable wizard that Bell was not the man with one who ventured into the habitat of fire dragons as he boasted. In fact, he also has a partner named Kevin, who is responsible for the debugging and logistics of the live broadcast equipment, and Bell himself was just an ordinary wizard before. These skills of his were the result of the training that Skywalker arranged for him. He was specially sent to the Auror office and the Magical Law Enforcement Reconnaissance Team for a 3-month training. Training includes wand slam, a unique technique that allows the wand to strike with a flick of the wrist, identification of wild herbs, monosyllabic spells to create water and fire, spells to hide one's form, gesture magic to enhance one's mobility and insight, building shelters, and purifying rotten food. Believe that the show can be performed even with a different person as long as you have gone through this training. But as far as Harry is concerned, these do not affect the excitement of the show. And not everyone can do this. After all, the training time is only 3 months. Skywalker must have chosen Belle because he had this potential. Rather than that alleged rumor, Skywalker thought the name Belle was appropriate. Show Belle's catchphrase, "The taste of crispy chicken," kept ringing in his ears. Harry also made a decision: when I get back, I'll contact Skywalker Alchemy Workshop and ask them to install a TV in the secret base outside Hogsmeade Village. But first, he needed to apologize to Ginny in the auditorium. Ginny, who was sitting with Lavender, Hannah, Parvati, Padma and others, was pulled up by him. "It's all my fault. Reconcile with you. I'm willing to pay any price. Even if Ron really likes me, it's fine. But that way, you will have one more rival in love. This love is your brother, or he's not Ron. Sometimes, if you care too much about other people's feelings, you will lose yourself. Be more carefree in life." At night, Harry gave up the idea of spending the night in the Rose Garden with Ginny, so he said goodbye to Ginny and returned to the dormitory. To his great relief, he found Ron lying in bed fully clothed, alone in the dormitory. After dealing with Ginny today, can I also deal with Ron? The thought made Harry close the door much louder than usual. Then Ron looked up and said, "Oh, hello." Ron was smiling, but it was a very awkward, forced smile. But Harry didn't care. He thought it was just Ron being sulky. He sat on the bed. He said excitedly to Ron opposite him, "You know what? I just made peace with Ginny." "Well," Ron managed to say after several seconds, like a bullet stuck in the shell, "congratulations." "Congratulations," said Harry, looking at Ron. There was something decidedly wrong with Ron's smile. It almost looked like a grimace. "Nothing, this isn't what you wanted," said Ron. "More popular than me, a good son to Mom and Dad. Even Bill, Draco, Neville, even my girlfriend are on your side. They allowed you and Ginny to hang out. Shouldn't we congratulate? You can go to the Rose Garden with Ginny again." "You're crazy. Look, what's going on between Ginny and I is our freedom. Ginny and I are both engaged, too, and they are not on my side." "But Ginny, don't you think it's too much for you to yell my and Ginny's names outside the castle, in the Rose Garden?" Ron raised his eyebrows. "You always have a point." Ron stood up. "If you really have a point, why didn't you go to the Rose Garden with Ginny tonight without a clear conscience? Isn't this your freedom?" Ron seemed to think he had found a loophole in Harry's mind, and he spoke even louder. "Aren't you engaged? So, you are wrong. You also feel guilty, so I don't dare go there again. Are you really a Ravenclaw student? You didn't realize that because of your words. Has anyone been in the Rose Garden today? Who else dares to go?" "Aha!" Ron jumped back excitedly. "You finally told the truth. You just look down on me. Too, all I do is copy homework all day long. Following behind the great Harry Potter, how can you be qualified to enter Ravenclaw, a place only for smart people? I do not have. You are. The only thing I have that is of value. The smoke bottle I invented, it's because of you too. From the beginning to the end, Ryan only wanted to take you to Moon City. I'm just adding to the mix. You know very well that without you I am nothing." Almost popped out. "You certainly make that impression on me now," said Harry grumpily. He thought Ron was really crazy. Even Ryan dared to mention it, or rather, he never saw it clearly. "Really?" said Ron. The redness in his face and the veins in his neck that had just been flushed with excitement had all faded. "Popular? Maybe I can go to the Rose Garden with Ginny to exercise among the flowers as soon as possible." He drew the curtains across his 4-poster bed. Harry was left standing by the door alone, staring at the sky blue curtain in a daze. He originally thought that no matter what, the person hiding behind the curtain would never break up with him. He also climbed onto the bed. Now, going on an adventure with Bear Grylls didn't seem to appeal to him at all, and went to bed. Chapter 664, Analysis Collapse. When Harry woke up on Monday morning, it took him a while to remember why he was feeling so sad and anxious. He initially mistakenly thought it was because he had class today. But then he immediately realized that it was still the holiday season. What happened last night suddenly came to my mind down the spiral staircase to the common room. As soon as he emerged, he saw Ginny waving at him. Ginny was accompanied by Neville and Draco. His heart, which had just been hanging in the balance because of Ron's absence, suddenly sank. What's wrong? Is it Ron? Ginny could tell at a glance that something was wrong with her boyfriend. Neville agreed, probably Ron. Harry and Ron went to bed early last night. Draco further noticed Harry's reluctance. You don't want to tell me? What are you worried about? I think Ginny and Ron's relationship was bad. Harry agreed, thinking that if he told them what happened yesterday, their relationship might deteriorate further. Draco stretched out his right hand and placed it on Harry's shoulder. Some problems will always remain problems if you don't speak them out. Ron. Draco is better. Unlike Ron, he can't understand good or bad words. This was Harry's first thought. But then he thought of Ryan's words. Ron really had that kind of feeling for him. Minutes later, Harry had explained the whole story of last night. Just skip Ryan and Yu-Cheng. Harry was surprised to find that Ginny was not as angry as he had imagined. Even Neville and Draco looked very understanding. Although Harry didn't understand. But she finally had the courage to ask Ginny, do you think the relationship between Ron and I can be improved? Ginny glanced at Harry and said calmly, what are we trying to ease? It's obviously his fault. Why should we ease with him? Neville comforted, Harry, just leave it alone. No matter what your relationship is like. But there is one thing that neither he nor you can break. You have to know that you are his roommate and brother-in-law. Draco pointed out the reason clearly, he is jealous. After Draco's words, Harry had no energy to respond to Ginny and Neville. Jealous? Harry asked incredulously. Jealous of what? Would he want to make a fool of himself in front of the whole school? This is normal for Ron. You forgot that when the three of us were rumored to be having an affair, we didn't dare to go out. It was as if he had won the lottery. Wherever there are people, he is there. As for what to be jealous of, you forgot that you have been a celebrity ever since you entered school over in the story of the Three Musketeers that Ron made up to defeat the poachers. You were undoubtedly the C position and then you protected the Philosopher's Stone. But didn't he later come up with a strange cloud spell, and even invented the smoke bottle through it? Made a lot of gold galleons. His father is still the great Mr. Weasley, head of the Department of Magical Law. Isn't he also in other stories? Draco shook his head and said with a wry smile, you forgot one thing, as long as you show up. He is always the Greenleaf opinion, also like you more. Fred and George also gave you the Marauders map. Never thought about their younger brother. Now, Bill, the only one in their family who doesn't like you, as well as Charlie and Percy who don't take sides, are on your side. Lavender, the only one in his eyes who thought he was more important than you, didn't stand with him on this matter to Ron. This was undoubtedly a betrayal. How could he not be jealous of you? He had endured all this silently before, never saying a word, but I think this time he just couldn't stand it anymore. Draco's words seemed to have touched Ginny's sore spot. Between Harry and me as a brother, I have been enduring it silently when everyone else agreed. He inexplicably jumped out to express his opposition. It seemed as if I was not his sister but his vassal. This time I can't stand it anymore. Now you know how others see me. Shameless slut. Because of him my reputation is no longer a reputation. He was clearly taking his anger out on Harry this time. I had scolded Harry just like him before. Let him think that my boyfriend is as much of an asshole as he is about this matter proves that he's the only bastard. Ridiculous hypocrite. You all know it. It was he and Lavender who made an excuse to leave first, wanting to do something in the rose garden. Remember, they are just boyfriend and girlfriend. Unlike Harry and I, who are engaged. If we were not old enough, we might have been married and had babies. He was indeed jealous. Jealous that Harry and I were progressing faster than he and Lavender. I asked Lavender he wanted it, but she refused. He is like this himself, and he still has the nerve to talk about Harry still want to control me. This shameless beast. And if he was anything like Harry, everyone around him would bless his relationship with Lavender. Would Lavender refuse? It's because he's been slacking off all day and night. Professor Trelawney, Parvati, and other people Lavender is close to all dislike him. It's all his own fault. And you dare to blame Harry? I think we should just let him die alone. Oh, that's what you think of me. Ron stood at the entrance of the lounge, holding a stack of bread in his hands, his expression uncertain. No, Ron, Ginny's just very, Harry said quickly. You know what? I wanted to apologize to you. But now I realize that you are a despicable and shameless villain. They said bad things about me behind their backs. Ron said coldly, turning back to look at Ginny. Harry Potter and I are the same. Still fickle. But you don't know. But I know. I know your brother. He had his eye on Miss Grey before you did. Cho Chang. Chu Zhang, who was called out, had a look of doubt on his life. You're just a replacement for him not being able to get them. You are such an ungrateful person, a traitor. Lock the tongue and seal the throat. Draco drew his wand and a beam of blue light shot towards Ron. Chapter 665, Draco's Great Victory. He's obviously really angry. After Ron left, Neville sighed as he looked at the bread left on the ground. Ginny spat, and Harry stood there in a daze. The two emotions of relief and guilt were now intertwined in his heart. Fortunately for him, Draco used the choking curse. It stopped Ron from saying any more vicious words. What he said to Ron. Ginny stood by Harry unconditionally in her words. Even the person present, referring to Chu Zhang, didn't know Harry had never spent any time with Chu Zhang privately in the past year. This was just a misjudgment caused by Ron's stupidity. As for Ms. Grey, he was just jealous of Harry getting the Ravenclaw diadem, but Harry knew it was all true. Draco looked at Harry and stroked his chin thoughtfully. I want to be alone for a while. Harry sighed and walked to the other corner of the Ravenclaw common room alone. Ginny and Neville glanced at Harry and headed towards the bedroom. And Draco left the common room half minutes later. Ravenclaw's corner. Hello, Draco said, holding up a pile of bread wrapped in a napkin. You have to eat breakfast no matter how angry you are. Future, will probably feel guilty about it. Want to take a walk? Draco raised the bread in his hand. This bread of yours was not the one Ron dropped on the ground just now. Harry laughed dryly. But the body stood up. Apparently, he accepted Draco's invitation. They went downstairs and without even a glance at the auditorium, they passed quickly through the foyer on the lake, casting a dark shadow in the water. The redwoods of Castrobus were swaying them not far away, as if he kept them walking, chewing bread. Surprisingly, Draco did not say a word during this time. This made Harry, who had prepared a lot of speeches, but as they walked branches, circles along the edge of the Black Lake, the depression in his heart inexplicably released a lot. I have now. It seemed like the heroine in the novel that Ginny secretly read. Facing an emotional crisis with the eccentric and domineering male protagonist, Ron, the considerate and warm-hearted second male lead, Draco, appears, but he does not choose to take advantage of the situation. Instead, she relied on a passionate heart to ease her, Harry, heartache in her relationship with the male protagonist. In the end, after going through many bloody events like being poisoned by a magic potion and being hit by a flying broom, she and the male protagonist finally reconciled. Draco had no idea how Harry was programming him. He just asked sincerely, Harry, I just noticed your expression. Can you answer me honestly? Are you really with more like it? Ahem. What? Nothing, you continue. Ron's words are true, Draco said. One-sided crush on Chu Zhang and Ms. Grey. You mean it's just a crush? No confession and no relationship. Draco breathed a sigh of relief. Just now he had almost figured out how to teach the scumbag Harry a lesson and tell Ginny the truth. That doesn't count. Harry asked anxiously, what is this? This is just like you guys were always talking about Miss Dracula. Not to mention that at that time, you hadn't dated Ginny or even developed feelings for her. What a betrayal. Draco didn't know whether to laugh or cry. Ron is really. You can even say that. He is really crazy. Harry didn't feel relieved when he heard Draco say that. He thought of the Black Phantom, Bellatrix Lestrange. Although it was because he was suggesting Voldemort's residue, he really fell in love with Bella at that time. It really was just as Ron said, he had been fickle before. But even though he thought so, he couldn't say it. This is about the mission, resurrecting his mother, and Ryan's story. Therefore, he could only look at Draco and ask directly, so, can Ron and I still get along? If possible, how can it be done as quickly as possible? My advice is to ignore him. Not only you, but Percy and the others as well. Especially Lavender. He is now like a volcano about to erupt. He would regard any concern and advice as betrayal. He wouldn't think it was because he cared about him. He will just think that they care about you and love you as well. Wait until his emotions cool down and you can hear the good and bad words. Maybe it will be soon. Like this morning, if I hadn't persuaded you to say those words, he would have been ready to reconcile with you. I even brought you breakfast. Harry waved his hand. This has nothing to do with you. If I hadn't brought this up, How would I have known that Ron had so many complaints? An outbreak now might be a good thing. If it is really delayed until later, it might be more serious. It was so serious that Ron and I never had anything to do with each other again. Then, I will live with this regret forever. Live forever. Draco laughed. You should say die with regrets. Otherwise, if someone doesn't know, they would think you are the same as Regulus. Only an immortal like him would say such things. Draco's words were stuck. Although Harry's awakened abilities were all lies. Also very good at lying. But because of this, he, who has reached the pinnacle of lies, controls all hypocritical behaviors and faces his friends sincerely. Draco sensed something was wrong because of Harry's face, which showed his true feelings. He quickly looked around and said in a low voice, "Are you really? And Regulus, I mean, is that so?" "I suppose so." "Dumbledore wouldn't lie, would he?" Harry laughed dryly. "How lonely you would be without us." Draco's faint words made Harry's heart tremble. Draco faced his immortality without jealousy or envy. Instead, the first thing that came to mind was a more distant topic. Full of worries. Inexplicably now, he was even more moved. Draco in front of him seemed to have become more handsome. Does he really only like girls? What would he do if Draco confessed to him? The heroine inside Harry opened his eyes. "I do." Quotation mark. Chapter 666. The holiday is coming to an end. Harry's heart, Avada, eats the big melon. Following. A cold male voice, a green light flashed. The heroine Harry died a violent death. Real world. Harry, are you alright? Harry, Draco put his hands on Harry's shoulders and shook him. Nothing. Harry shook his head. I was just thinking, what would Ron do if he heard the news instead of you? With you because of this to avoid the regrets of not having him in your life in the future. Draco paused. He cleared his throat and imitated Harry. What did you say? It's a shame that Ron and I were friends for just a few days because of a small incident. Harry shook his head quickly. The heroine Harry in my heart seems to be showing signs of resurrection, he said in a hoarse voice. A few days? How could it be so fast? This time, I think Ron will be upset for a long time. Don't worry, I'm here, Draco comforted. He thought Harry was like that because of Ron. The sadness was brought back. Time quickly came to Saturday, January 1994, 1. There was still no improvement in his relationship with Ron. Every night, Ron drew the curtains early due with what Draco said. Otherwise, Ginny couldn't stop him. However, this is a good thing in some ways. This allowed him to finish all his homework by the 29th. If there is no problem with Ron's relationship with him, this assignment will not be completed until at least the 31st. In the time since they had finished their homework, Harry and Ginny had not been to the Rose Garden again. Instead, he spent time in front of the television in his secret base on the hillside outside Hogsmeade. Only then did Harry realize that there were many more interesting TV shows in the wizarding world today. In addition to The Last Go on an Adventure with Bear Grylls, there are other interesting programs of different styles. There's A Bite of Britain, which focuses on the cuisine of various regions, and Myron Wagtail, lead singer of the Weird Sisters and Mrs. Weasley's favorite singer, Celestina Warbeck, and Aretha Ayel, a famous fairy jazz singer in the 20s, her wizard name, original fairy name is unknown, together with Lorcan Dice, a mixed-race vampire singer who is loved by witches. They form the 4-member group The Voice of Britain. Ginny really likes this show. Her favorite is this unique pattern. 4 musicians of different styles and ages put aside all worldly things and blindly selected singers to join their respective teams based purely on their singing voices. Fight for the final championship. The differences in singing voices and appearance of the contestants are also a major highlight. The Ministry of Magic also launched a very interesting program run. Horrors, in order to change the bad image of the Ministry of Magic employees with big bellies that Fudge brought. The Ministry of Magic has specially selected several employees from each department to have advantages in appearance, communication skills, and athletic ability, and gave them the title of Honorary Horror. The Onion. The most interesting thing about it is that openly fabricate fake news based on real news events. The main content is some satire or exaggerated narratives combined with hot current events. The editor-in-chief of these news is said to be Rita Skeeter. She inherited her previous spicy style with exaggeration and fabrication. It was the first time Harry found Rita Skeeter's writing so interesting from a different perspective. It felt like watching a video of the Quibbler. Ginny seemed a little unhappy about this. She thought the Daily Prophet had copied the Quibbler's style until she saw the subtitles below that read, "Produced in conjunction with the Quibbler." Only then did she feel at ease and began to enjoy the content of the program. Haha, look, The host said seriously, Old Kent of Yorkshire gave birth to a love child with a potion for male fertility and a goat, too. Be honest, these interesting programs really made him miss Ron less. He began to think rationally about getting back together with Ron. He also decided to consult other people he thought were reliable about ways to get back together, just like he had consulted Draco. Hagrid suggested, Harry, you should ask Dumbledore, he is the wisest man. If I wasn't afraid to disturb him. I even thought about asking what color underwear I should wear on my date with Maxim tomorrow. Harry held it and tried it. Sirius wrote, Harry, I'm glad you asked for my opinion on this matter. James. However, if this person is Ron, his head is indeed prone to seizures. As the smarter you are, you should tie him to your side forcefully. Use your words and actions to light up his slightly dull mind. Of these suggestions, Harry found Hagrid's the most useful. Others include Lupin and Sirius. They are all too emotional. Dumbledore's class on Saturday, he wanted to ask Ron how to repair his relationship during the course. Received a letter from Dumbledore. Dear Harry, I was going to start giving you private lessons this Saturday. But I heard you're having a fight with Ron lately. I don't think you'll have the time to take care of your lessons for a new role right now. Yours faithfully, Albus Dumbledore. A fresh cleanup? A new role? Ginny, who saw the letter nearby, was full of confusion. Harry coughed. He doesn't want me to be a father early. While being embarrassed, Harry was still very depressed. In his opinion, if the course had not been cancelled. Chapter 667. Hypocrite Ron. This Christmas holiday was a crazy and magical 9 days for Ryan. While Harry was depressed about Ron and focusing his energy on TV, he was living a magnificent holiday in multiple ways. The ethereal moon. Hermione is a cute, dull and serious girl with rabbit teeth. Hibiscus is graceful, charming and attractive. Nagini is a wild creature with a naive innocence. Penelope is gentle, charming and bookish. Kate, well, because of Kate he could no longer look at Harry, Draco, and Ron with normal eyes. Only Neville escaped because his mother was just cute but not beautiful. Kate is truly sinful, and after leaving the era, Kate, who had borrowed a shadow, can reappear again. This really made Ryan very conflicted. He wanted to say no, but the awakened beast within him refused to remain dormant any longer. After tasting blood, now they have been defeated by time or still have their charm and also a role with a special identity. Kate played the roles of them when they were young one by one. He sometimes even mistook Harry and the others for his own sons. It gives people a feeling of confusion in time, space and identity. The window particularly blurry. At his side, Hermione was handling jumping beans, a magical plant similar to peanuts whose fruits were buried underground. After leaving the ground, its fruits will consume all the magic power it contains and bounce continuously in the opposite direction of the mother plant. This made Hermione, whose physical fitness was better than other wizards of the same age due to drinking the potion, a little flustered. She held a 6-inch wooden bowl and kept turning it upside down on the table at Professor Sprout's request. Plant them in a pot filled with soil nearby. Ryan rested his chin on his hand and looked out the blurry window. Empty eyes, the ears twitched slightly. Listening to the students chatting in the castle, I found the content interesting. The top 3 keywords mentioned were television, Harry, and Rose Garden. When these students mentioned television, most of them were complaining. Complaining about the lack of TV programs at school longer except the backward entertainment available at Hogwarts today. Crackling and exploding cards, inexplicable gobstone, a little boring wizard chess, waste of brain power. Other outdoor activities include the most popular broomstick and snorkeling in the Black Lake. They were all defeated by the biting cold wind and icy snowflakes. They now prefer stay in the warm lounge eating snacks like BB multi-flavor beans, watching interesting TV. As for reading, the only book that can compare with TV is the Doraemon series. It's like a cartoon in the shape of a book. There are sounds and animated pictures, but most wizards have already memorized the contents of the Doraemon series. There's no way to kill time, they complained. I am preparing to write a letter to the principal. It was required that the lounges of each college should be equipped with televisions, just like the bars today. The reason is that you can learn knowledge from it. Follow Bear on an adventure. Ryan agrees with this. I have reviews all the programs that can be broadcast on television. He would never approve programs with ill intentions. For example, Fudge's Cornelius Family is going to produce a program reviewing the successive ministers of magic. For the period of time when Fudge was imprinted, they used the skill of the history book treacherous ministers who brought disaster to the country, and it had nothing to do with Minister Fudge. The show was rejected by Ryan. He couldn't have imagined that even after Fudge stepped down, there would still be so much political legacy. It was even possible to pass the program's preliminary review, but it was rejected by him. As for Umbridge being wrongly accused, Ryan thought it was normal life a mopping janitor at the Department of Magical Maintenance. However, judging from her history of rising to power, it is still very inspiring from an ordinary half-blood witch with no background. In itself, I look very ugly as a muggle mother and a squib brother, when the magic level is not very good. By working hard to build relationships with powerful officials, fighting hard against the Patronus charm, and distancing himself from his family, he lied that he was pure-blood, his father was a member of the Wizengamot, etc. At the age of only 40, he rose to the position of Senior Deputy Minister of Magic. For this reason, Ryan suggested in his reply that it would be better to introduce Fudge. Might as well introduces Dolores Umbridge. See why a witch with discrimination against non-magical people and alleged phobia of non-humans, or creatures that are not quite human, would climb the Ministry of Magic so fast. Unfortunately for Ryan, his suggestion was ignored. The show was discontinued. Those who mentioned the keywords Harry and Rose Garden are actually almost the same group of people. Harry and Ron's breakup was much talked about by the students who stayed at Hogwarts after Christmas. The wizards who returned to school after the holidays were particularly interested in this. They even started to bet to see when Harry and Ron would reconcile. Some people also speculated that the two of them had completely broken up. But there are very few such people. The Rose Garden, those wizards who returned to school after the holidays, all felt regretful and lost about the disappearance of the Rose Garden. Most of these students regretted going home for Christmas if they stayed at Hogwarts. Maybe they would be able to find a partner to go to the Rose Garden with and climb up Duolang. However, not all wizards mentioned the Rose Garden focused on Harry, Ginny, and Ron. They are more concerned about who has been to the Rose Garden. Some have, together with the Hogwarts pranksters, the Weasley twins, because Ron stopped him. The Gryffindor Black Pearl Angelina Johnson was discovered. Became the center of conversation besides Ginny and Harry. Besides her, there are Ron and Lavender. Someone saw them both running back to the castle at 1 o'clock in the morning. Because of this, Ron's reputation began to deteriorate. Chu Zhang, in any special way, Chu Zhang herself and her friends said no. If you're listening to this novel on a channel other than Fanfic World, it means they downloaded and uploaded it without effort. We cordially invite you to visit our channel, Mundo Fanfic Novelist. There you'll find the original version of this story, and you can explore many other novels of various genres. We're waiting for you to immerse yourself in a world of incredible novels. Chapter 668, Father Ryan. Thinking of this, Ryan couldn't help but laugh out loud. He turned to look at Ron, who was sitting far away from Else. In the current herbal medicine classroom. Except for Harry and Neville, Else was very repulsive to Ron. Among them, everyone Anthony and Dudley are particularly noteworthy. It can be said that if it wasn't for giving Harry face lesson. Apparently, Ron noticed this, too. His face became even more sour. For Harry, who always wanted to be close to him, he expressed his love through actions many times. But this also made people who noticed this feel even more sorry for Harry. I became even more disdainful of Ron. In Ryan's opinion, Ron was really deserted by everyone this time. In the wizarding world, especially in the UK, the atmosphere is relatively open. For Harry and Ginny's age, it's actually quite normal. After all, before the potion that could help boys have children appeared, the birth rate in the wizarding world has been declining rapidly towards an aging population. As the older brother, it is a thankless task for Ron to step in and take care of this matter. What's more, Harry and Ginny are engaged. Although, in the British wizarding world, there are also wizards who, like the old pedants, despise premarital sex women in the family. Ron's behavior also offended this group of people. He first made clear the matter between his two brothers and a girl. He also made the affairs of his sister and brother-in-law known to the whole city. Now, Ron is caught in a dilemma. Because of this, he is very sensitive to this kind of pressure, like a balloon that will burst if poked. It was only a matter of time before I broke up with Harry, sighed Ron, who expected Harry to be with him unconditionally, would naturally be disappointed and then explode. Ryan thought so, but looking at Ron with a dark face, he thought again of Kate's version of the youthful and beautiful Molly. The emotions of a loving father suddenly emerged into my heart. Forget it. Let me, Dad, help you. Ryan knocked lightly on the table. The magic of invisible matter was woven into shape by Ryan that added to a magic that would only work on Ron. It merged into the sound waves which could not be considered a medium. Inside the greenhouse, Ron's ears twitched subconsciously. His eyes lost focus in a trance. My name is Ron Weasley. I am engaged. The damn Ginny wants to make trouble again. Even Bill. But Mom and Dad agreed. Haha. On the night of the Christmas ball, we took a crucial step. But the next morning, Ginny's bastard voice sounded again. I have spread this story about me and Harry everywhere. I even heard someone secretly calling me a slut. It's all Ginny. But he still acted like I was wrong. This bastard. He also used this opportunity to quarrel with Harry and slander him. In the real world, 1 second had passed since Ron's trance. When his eyes regained focus, they were no longer filled with rejection of the surroundings. It first flashed with a deep love. Absent-mindedly, he turned his head and took a last look at Harry as Ron Weasley, after regaining consciousness, deep guilt reappeared. Harry happened to meet that gaze, and he understood immediately. For some reason, Ron was reconciled with him again. Harry grinned and sat down next to Ron, and this time Ron did not refuse. However, this only represents a reconciliation with Harry and Ron. Ryan would naturally not make any mistakes. Even Ryan with mortal thoughts is the same. While Ron was in a trance. In the Transfiguration classroom, Ryan, who was with Luna, snapped his fingers. Ginny also fell into trance for a moment. She became Gimli Weasley jealous. Although his methods of expressing love are clumsy and awkward, he still tries hard to be a good brother. As a result, I committed many stupid things. It made her sister Ron lose her of him. Never called him brother again. However, he still did not give up his love for his sister. He has a new friend, Harry Potter, who his sister keeps talking about. The morning after Christmas. After lying in bed feeling sleepy, Harry's empty bed brought back horrible associations to him. The brain lost its mind, only that remains for him. A hellish thought, Ron and Harry last night? He went crazy and started looking for his sister everywhere. Today's breakfast was very rich horse, but he still persisted. Hell has truly come to earth. In his eyes, Ron was still a child, but he was defiled by Harry. He forced himself to accept it. Hint to yourself that they are engaged. This is common in the wizarding world. Although Ron broke up with him because of this, he became the enemy of the people. His parents, brothers, and even Bill, whom he considered to be his comrade, and Harry and Ron, all turned against him, took him to a small room and lectured him for hours. But none of that matters. He and Harry. However, at night, he heard Harry's betrayal-like words. After he returned to the bedroom, he shamelessly said that he and Ginny had reconciled. They had a quarrel. The next day, he decided to forgive Harry again. After eating half a meal, he chose Harry's favorite jam and spread it on the bread. But he didn't expect it. He heard the conversation. His friends think he is a joke. The sister who cares about him the most sees him as a burden. All this is because, the best one, even Harry Potter, his friend who once had a crush on him, say bad things about him behind his back. He broke down, spilling all his secrets. However, no one believed it. Everyone in the school started to exclude him. And then, it was as if he shivered. She had once again summarized her identity as Ginny Weasley. She couldn't help but look up at the window. At the greenhouse outside the castle there were the two people she cared about most. But on the other hand, deep doubts kept welling up in my mind. Does Ron really like Harry as much as Gimli does? Thanks to classmate Shumeng Zhong Halo for the monthly ticket and other classmates for the recommendation and subscription. Chapter 669, The Progress of Brick Family and Kate. I suggest that young wizards work in factories. This will be beneficial to the development of alchemy. You can't just consider personal income. Low-income wizards can rent out their ancestral magic props and old houses to increase their income. Of flu powder will be raised to more than 20 galleons per can. This will limit the number of users of the flu network and thus reduce the increase in the cost of maintaining the flu network and the lag caused by congestion. The base pay of private sector workers cannot be raised. The Skywalker model is unacceptable. Workers' wages are too high and it will make British companies less internationally competitive. To have children, I suggest imposing a fine on families who are unwilling to have children and collecting additional taxes on single wizards. Ryan rubbed his eyes. He couldn't have imagined that even after traveling through time, he could still see the speeches of these familiar yet unfamiliar experts. The above are all from the content of a newspaper published by a British newspaper called Eye of the Future. This newspaper claims to have integrated the guidance of elites and experts from all walks of life on various industries and social development. It is the eyes of ordinary wizards looking into the future. But obviously, the answer is no. Little brat, little brat, little brat. The voice of a child about 3 years old ranges in Ryan's ears. The strange thing is that the pronunciation is very clear, without any swallowing of sounds that children often experience due to unfamiliarity when speaking. "Kate, you again?" Ryan turned his head helplessly. Kate's personality also seems to have become much more childish due to her physical changes. Seeing that Ryan was a little slow in answering, she shuddered. I turned and jumped up. "Put your arms around Ryan's neck." The body is suspended in the air like a swing, swaying left and right. Dang dang. "You have to know that you are not a real child." Ryan snapped his fingers. The power of the fuchsia spell enveloped baby Kate down as Ryan said, "During this time back in time, Kate, who borrowed the shadow of her childhood, even if it gets smaller, but because of the existence of the low-profile version of the kingdom of God, the shadow world, plus Ryan's magic potion for external and internal application. Although its physical fitness is not as good as that of an adult fire dragon, it is not far behind. This is the charm of magic." Ryan wiped the non-existent tears from the corners of his eyes and sighed. What he regretted was not Kate's low-profile version of the kingdom of God, her ability to borrow shadows, or her physical fitness. It was the process of him casting the spell just now. If Kate is hung upside down in the air by thinking, the magic power consumed is 1. The value of using the levitation spell to cause this phenomenon is 0.5. The magic fuchsia was invented to create this phenomenon. The amount of magic power consumed is only about 0.01. That's the charm of magic. Create miracles with minimal magic. Just like Ryan can now rely on the essence of magic to do everything, but if through a spell as a medium, expand its versatility, that would be much simpler. And simply being knowledgeable and proficient in all spells can also be considered a kind of omnipotence, and the threshold is lower if the first type of can only be done by the best among the level 7 ancient wizards gods. By casting spells, one can expand his omnipotence in the field of his expertise. Only a level 6 demigod wizard, who is very close to the realm of gods, can covet this. And finally, ordinary wizards will do. All wizards can achieve this, if they have the knowledge and the ability to use it wisely. After all, it is difficult to reach level 6 or 7. It's much more difficult than memorizing all the spells, mastering them one by one over time, and creating a personal framework to classify them. Kate was struggling in the air, babbling, but Ryan ignored her. It turned into a dark shadow, and then reappeared in Ryan's arms in their original appearance. "What's so good about this?" Kate pouted. "Where did this pheasant newspaper come from?" Ryan stretched his neck. He held up the Buckeyes of the Future in his hand and said, "Its sales are pretty good. With the development of audio-visual media such as television, it is considered to be one of the relatively strong traditional paper media. Our Skywalker Alchemy Workshop has not had any impact on its sales at all." "Let me see." Kate appeared above Ryan's head through shadow transformation. She is smaller now, but judging from the snow-white wings on her back, she should have borrowed the shadow of a fairy, but it does not completely cover it, maintaining its own appearance characteristics. Kate borrowed the magic of shadows, which can not only work on humans and wizards, but also humanoid creatures, anyone. Subscribe to this. I have never heard of it or original form. The whole person slid down from Ryan's head. Finally, it hung around Ryan's neck like a koala. "Obviously, you're not the target customer. To normal people, his newspapers are full of gibberish. So how does it find its target customers? The marketing model is simple and ridiculous. The kind that normal people would ignore when they see it. Readers who are attracted by this model, not to mention its nonsense. And there is a saying that goes, birds of a feather flock together. We've dealt with a fool. Among this fool's friends, will other fools also come here after hearing about it? Idiot. Aren't those who believe this a fool? It can only be said that they are easily fooled. Isn't this the same idea? Is it? This argument about idiots ended in a fight. After the battle, Ryan still felt a lingering fear. After excluding Nagini, the physical attack warrior, and Furin, the magical attack mage. X-Men again. She vowed always transform. I just hope that can be like Penelope, just be a normal witch in this regard. Amen. Chapter 670. Snape's illegitimate child? This January, the team competition to be held on the last Monday of the month has become the focus of people's attention. The other request was to install a TV, which was approved. The TV installation will be completed after the team competition. It is said that this is to coordinate the television circuits with the ancient protective arrays in the 4 college lounges. Weasley reconciled. Now they are inseparable. Closer than ever. Even if Ron hadn't come in these 3 years, that he was a straight man and had a girlfriend, everyone would think that Ron and Harry were together. What's even more outrageous is the key figure in their separation, Ginny Weasley. Although I am not happy about this. But no one said anything against it. She just kept Harry by her side whenever she had time to spend with him. And it seemed to do everything possible to reduce the physical contact between Harry and Ron. Everyone is really surprised. Especially those that Harry and Ron were close to. Fred and George even came to my house because of this. My little brother. Let me check if you are under the confusion spell. Draco suggested another possibility. It's well known that Ron loves to eat, aphrodisiac added to the food, and was dragged to the woods to have sex. I suspect Ron ate food laced with a love potion, in herbology class. He sat alone in the corner, not only to stay away from Harry, but also to eat snacks to relieve his anger. Why is Ron's love so secretive? Just a look of rubbing, Draco added. The mastermind may be a Slytherin or a wizard from a wealthy and well-connected wizard family. That's how he could get aphrodisiacs of this quality. A wizard from a family like ours. Everyone knows that the love caused by love drugs is not always so passionate and crazy that it is easy to be discovered. Like a great potion master, like Professor Snape. The high-level aphrodisiac he refined can definitely achieve this. The victim knows that he has been drugged, but is unable to remove it. The love created in this way is secretive and silent. By the time they were found, they were probably already pregnant. Draco's guess was still rejected. But not by them. It was Professor Snape. It is said that Mr. Weasley heard about this. Knowing Ron, I agreed with this guess. So he wrote to Dumbledore. Dumbledore asked Professor Snape for help again. During dinner, in full view of everyone, Professor Snape publicly examined Ron's body. And declared that it was not under the influence of any spell or potion, was once ordered not to wear makeup, and there were no deductions for wearing jewelry. It is now recognized and followed by most witches and a few wizards. The person in the photo is called Daniel Page, a kid from his neighbor's family. He accidentally discovered that the neighbor's hostess was a witch. There are 3 children in total. The older one, a man and a woman, were both doubts. The younger one is Daniel, very much like Snape. Except for the red hair he inherited from his mother, he is exactly the same as Snape. The Hufflepuff wizard believed that it was very likely that this Daniel was Snape's child. His mother was one of Snape's prey. The 2 older ones among the 3 children were probably not squibs, but pure muggles. The evidence is far-fetched though. But it also touched the hearts of those witches and wizards who were confident in their looks, began to pay attention to his appearance. It's best not to wear makeup or dress up. If you must, then make it ugly. Harry didn't believe this rumor at first. But after seeing the photo, Snape rubbed it carefully a few times. Harry couldn't help but feel a little suspicious. However, what Harry didn't know was that this rumor had also reached Dumbledore's ears. Spies told me in Daniel Page, our future student, in the short time that you may or will get pregnant, his mother returned to live in the wizarding world for a while. He also bought a batch of very suspicious potion materials in Diagon Alley. Materials for making love potions. Even more suspicious was the fact that her husband's body had been examined by ministry staff at the time. The conclusion was that there was no trace of having taken aphrodisiacs, and her explanation was to ease the relationship with her lover. As for the love potion, she failed to make it because she was too nervous. But as it happens, I am the headmaster of Hogwarts. When Madame Page was at Hogwarts, she got a 0 in potions. The same is true on the OWLT, overall wizarding test, certificate. The Ministry of Magic staff also found out about this. However, as no evidence could be found, Mrs. Page was warned and then released. But what if this aphrodisiac was not made by her, but given to you? Is she the one who took it? You think I would do that? Snape's mouth twitched. I didn't think so. Just as I never doubt your loyalty, I also don't doubt your love for Lily. But another discovery made me doubt. During the time that Mrs. Page was drunk, you were drinking heavily all day. I've also been to Diagon Alley. Plus, Dumbledore pointed his wand and a photo appeared on the table, plus this photo. For the first time, I realized that Mrs. Page looked very similar to Lily from this angle. Not to mention that Mrs. Page also has red hair and green eyes. You mean, I was drunk and found her buying those potion ingredients in Diagon Alley, and then I had bad intentions? Possibly. Dumbledore blinked. Chapter 671. Snape is about to go bald. Just as Snape was about to lose his temper, Dumbledore waved his wand again. A piece of parchment flew towards Snape. This is the main reason why I called you here today. What a stupid organization. And why have I never heard of it? Snape rubbed his frowning brows. Its history is very short. When they contacted Mrs. Page, it was probably just established not long ago. And because of the existence of Voldemort and his Death Eaters, they have never dared to show up. Coward. Snape breathed a sigh of relief. You can say that. But Severus. Their ideas are dangerous. Just thinking about speeding up, without any leadership. In their eyes, the magical and muggle worlds would balance themselves out. The sacrifices involved were necessary in their view. Our world a better place after we win. Thus, we discovered this nascent organization. You mean they showed up? Dumbledore acknowledged. You could say that. Arthur and Bones talk about everything that is guided by the recent progress in the wizarding world. Compared to people in the muggle world. If they must merge, at least the population should be equal. Other words, the magicization of muggle items is still limited to low-tech muggle items such as low-end cars. But they didn't see this and just wanted to speed up. Riddle's book Magic for Muggles was also seen by them as a sign that wizards were now ready. They just need to speed up. Just the first taste of the fusion of the muggle and wizarding worlds. Then what do I need to do? Just, Snape drew his wand. Dumbledore waved him down, signaling him to put down his wand. Severus, it would be easy to destroy them physically. But we are not Death Eaters. The Order of the Phoenix is just an ordinary society. What this matter needs is guidance. Guidance? Could it be that this was done by my student, our Slytherin? Snape was full of disbelief. Of course, some Slytherins looked toward the Muggle world. He thought it was done by a student from Ravenclaw or Gryffindor. The potion for boys to have children has made a large number of pure-blood families no longer have to worry about it. They began to cultivate new offspring. And what Slytherin house lacks the least is ambitious people. But for a long time, most of the assets in the wizarding world have been in the hands of the large pure-blood families. Small pure-blood families have never had a chance to rise to prominence to heaven. You will no longer be able to endure hell. Their comfortable life in the eyes of ordinary wizards is hell to them who have seen the enjoyment of the top pure-blood families. With the recent changes in the wizarding world, no, they have long set their sights on the Muggle world. Have the recent changes made them mistakenly believe that their time has come? That is why I have come to you, Severus. If it were you, your status as the head of Slytherin House, plus your level of magic, you can easily seize leadership of this organization. I need you to guide them to the right path as Slytherins who are willing to look at the Muggle world. They are more progressive and open-minded than the old purebloods. I don't want them to go the wrong way, no, the way I and Gedler go. This scene was naturally observed by Ryan. Snape, Ryan's employee Cy, also told him the details of the conversation. This naturally made Ryan, in fact, after the name Daniel Page appeared, Ryan knew the world he lived in the subsequent direction is not to continue Harry Potter and the Cursed Child. After all, Voldemort and Bella had no children. The subsequent development of this world is closer to everything in the Pig Farm game. Ryan was very surprised when he found out about it. So, the one who didn't go to school, you can use the vanishing charm that you learn in the Transfiguration class in 5th grade. Did Ivy, who made her twin sister disappear, really exist? Good guy, isn't this white Hairball the new Dark Lord? The building is crooked. The emergence of the Notham organization. After Voldemort's death, the Harry Potter children are still young. None of the time I went to Hogwarts, but by then, Neville had become a professor of herbology at that time. The Ministry of Magic and the professors were at a loss as to what to do with this organization. The Ministry of Magic is still the same as it was when Fudge was there, procrastinating and only caring about catching wizards who have made minor mistakes and have no background, and punishing them severely. Daniel's mother is. At that time, the emergence of not mainly because he thought Voldemort was dead. Then everything was peaceful. Fairness is there. However, contrary to the expectations of everyone in the magical world, things in the real world did not develop that way. The Ministry of Magic dealt with a few scum though. However, the backwardness caused by the system has not changed. The Ministry of Magic still places more emphasis on bloodline, seniority, and everyone relationships. Then comes knowledge. Hermione becomes Minister of Magic. This is because of her achievements. The second is the relationship with the Weasley family. Her own talents were only the icing on the cake in this situation where ideals and reality are torn apart. Notham was born, but now, Notham is more organized than before. In fact, because it is in its infancy, it is even more secretive and dares not show up, but it was easily discovered. The only difference from the original world line is that there is one more Dumbledore. Some wizards believe it to be a slightly insane being. But it's because of Dumbledore. He relied solely on information obtained by his own spies. Combining his own wisdom and a brief investigation, he was able to clearly understand everything about this organization. Chapter 672 Frankness. Professor Snape has been in the news a lot lately. Is this another mission from Dumbledore? Harry flipped through the recently piled up Daily Prophet. I have noticed that Professor Snape was on all the front page headlines. Ron came over and said, "That's weird. When did Snape get involved with broom maintenance tools? What does he know about broomsticks? Give this company a platform. Advertising? I know that, it's his. I'm talking about an outstanding freshman in our college, Elliot Evers. His brother, Vincent Evers, opened it." Draco rubbed his chin and noticed the Evers logo on the repair box in the photo. What's so strange about this? Ron immediately showed his disinterest when he heard that it was a Slytherin freshman. It's normal for the dean to stand up for outstanding students. That Vincent Evers is also a Slytherin, right? Didn't Professor Sprout also write a letter of recommendation for the fertilizer company of Lodge, the crying boy from Hufflepuff? I dare say, wait until Harry graduates. He started a flying club. More professors went out to promote it. Crying boy, graduation. Ginny was very curious. Percy had mentioned this lodge the summer after his first year. But it's a bit strange when I mention him, a feeling of sympathy. Sosie memorized Rocky's name and his deeds deeply. Harry shook his head. That's not the question. I mean, Professor Snape shows up way too often. That's obviously not normal. I know. Ron raised his hand, but I need to answer Ginny's question first. As we all know, because Muggle items are allowed to be magical, many new markets and jobs have been created. The economy of the British wizarding world also prospered a lot. After graduation, students choose to go to the Ministry of Magic. Transformed into entrepreneurship. The Ministry of Magic has also noticed this situation. Especially for the newly graduated students, startup loans are issued starting a business. It should be normal to show up. Is it really normal? Sprout supported Rocky because she herself is an expert in the field of herbal medicine. She knows whether her students' fertilizer is truly excellent. But Professor Snape and broomsticks have nothing in common. It's also called a maintenance tool. Harry said shrugged. According to the previous situation, Ron and you reconciled. Let's just say you have a good relationship. But how could it happen so fast between him and Ginny? Just now, Ron deliberately answered Ginny's question first. Don't you find it strange? Okay. Ron couldn't sit still. You still think I took a high-level love potion? People. That child named Daniel inexplicably gained a father. I think Professor Snape has been going out a lot recently just to keep himself busy. So that people won't suspect him. Ron continued. It has nothing to do with me. This was revealed by that Hufflepuff student. It's just that Professor Snape and Daniel look so alike. Maybe that's a good thing. Potions? Do you think everyone likes them? Of the four of us, Ginny and I didn't like it. Right, Ginny. Ginny said nothing. Draco looked at Harry. That depends on the parents. Just like Harry. He's as good at Quidditch as his father and as good at potions as his mother. And Daniel's mother was very good at potions. If she hadn't married a Muggle, she might have become a master of potions. Nonsense. You might as well be a potions master. Right, Ginny. Faced with Ron's words, Ginny still did not answer. She had already noticed something was wrong. Sure enough, Draco burst into laughter. Harry, now you've figured it out. When did Ron and Ginny become so close? Especially since they were both standing together arguing with me. Are only 4 days left until the 24th. More than half of this month has passed, but neither of them mentioned the reason why they reconciled so quickly. Even before this, Ron was repeatedly speculated to have taken aphrodisiacs and been cast under a bewitching spell. Neither of them explained. Isn't this normal? Draco said that Ginny and I, the two of us. Ron was interrupted by Ginny halfway through his words. Okay, Ron, they've all noticed something's wrong. Ginny took a deep breath and continued. It all started with a dream. At first I thought it was just me. But you all know that Ron can't keep a secret, so I soon discovered that Ron was also having this dream. In the dream, he and I exchanged identities. I have experienced everything from birth to now. Harry was stunned. Draco was stunned, and asked, including being intimate with Harry. Although his questions were directed to Ginny, his eyes were always on Ron. So did Harry. And after Draco asked this question, Ron agreed subconsciously. Draco gasped. Harry fell to the ground. and kept retreating in the opposite direction of Ron. Until it gets close to the wall. Ron Weasley. You never told me there was this. Ginny was also very surprised, separate from Ron for some time. For safety. Draco suggested after coming to his senses. I agree. Harry said quickly, standing up against the wall. I agree. Ron said quickly when he saw that Ginny seemed to be about to eat him. As if that wasn't enough, he added, I can switch beds with Terry on the far right, away from Harry. I'll go find Lavender now. Is going on. Chapter 673 Crumb's Repayment. Crumb is really hard-working. It's January now, and it's so cold, and you're flying around in the sky all day long. On the way to Care of Magical Creatures class, Harry heard two Hufflepuffs saying as they passed by. He raised his head and looked toward the sky. Although there was heavy snow, Harry could still see Crumb at a glance with his transformed eyesight. Crumb is riding his Nimbus 2001. Maybe it's because the weather is too cold. He also wore the green dragon skin earmuffs when he was flying, and wore a black fur cloak that was bulging on his body. Is Crumb really in heaven? Maybe this has something to do with the puzzle. Neville said this. I have confirmed from the look on Harry's face that Crumb was actually in midair. Ron, who should have been by Harry's side, stood behind the Ravenclaw students who were going to class to Ginny, to stay away from Harry. Even the layout of the bedroom has really changed. However, it was different from what Ron had thought before, that he would let the person behind him move forward one step, and he ended up doing it in the end. That is, Neville slept next to Harry. When Ron really said that, Anthony directly switched beds with Ron. The current layout of the bedroom from left to right is Ryan, Harry, Anthony, Neville, Ron, Michael, and Terry. Harry is still waving about these changes. On the one hand, he had finally restored his relationship with Ron. We haven't had enough fun together yet, we have to separate again. But on the other hand, knowing the discomfort Ron had felt about Ginny's intimacy with him in that dream, he wanted to keep his distance from Ron again, so he came to the edge of the Forbidden Forest in this way. Hagrid is already waiting here. Surprisingly, Hephaestus is here too. When they walked in, they found that the snow around them had melted. Several wizards who had arrived earlier had already taken off their thick cloaks. The robe underneath was revealed. It seems like it is already March, the time when the winter snow melts and everything comes back to life. Are the magical creatures afraid of the cold today? Could it be the fire ash snake? Behind Harry, Hagrid's career as a professor is going more and more smoothly. He also became more and more comfortable with his courses. He also dares to bring up things outside the classroom, and class even brought it to class. Hephaestus was one of them. Now everyone has become accustomed to his existence. As the school bell rang, Hagrid waved his hand and asked everyone to follow him into the Forbidden Forest. Among people, is it possible that what we are learning today is the divine horse? If it's a talisman horse, this stable is too small. And if that's the case, why doesn't it smell like fire whiskey? They all drink only fire whiskey. Isn't that strange, Maya? Ahem, I noticed when I was looking at the scenery that the rune horse is next to the Booksburton's carriage. I see you're not looking at a horse, you're looking at a— Okay, quiet. The creature we are going to learn about today has a nickname, the patron saint of horses. The rune horses that would fight each other after drinking too much fire whiskey would suddenly become quiet when facing them and snort at them affectionately. But they also have a disadvantage. That is, they are shy by nature and do not trust humans. They always hide when someone approaches them, and usually build their nests in straw piles that smell like horses. In daily life, they also usually hide among the herds of horses they protect. Speaking of which, does any of you know what they are called? Hagrid blinked. While the other students were still thinking, Harry raised his hand and answered, Porlock. Harry thought that was too obvious. Very good, 2 points for Ravenclaw. Hagrid then opened the entrance to the stable. 4 or 5 strange creatures, about 2 feet tall, walking upright, with fur of different colors, walked cautiously behind Hagrid. Hair, and have a large, wiry mane on their heads like a horse, but their noses are unusually large. With those 2 very small arms and 4 stubby fingers, it looks like a rag doll. Many girls exclaimed, oh. Lisa Dupin couldn't help herself first. Then how can we get close to this little cutie? I mean, hold it and take a deep breath. Haha, Hagrid stroked his beard. That's the main point of this lesson. No magic. Make these shy little guys willing to get close to you. The secret lies in the introduction to Porlock that I just mentioned. Until 10 minutes before the end of the class, Padma was the first to discover the secret. That was to cover her body with straw that smelled like horses. And straw is everywhere in Mopang. It wasn't that she was the most attentive, it's because boys aren't very interested in it, and Harry also vaguely heard an ethereal singing voice coming from somewhere. Attention was amused. Finally, Hagrid gave Padma 5 points for her discovery. The girls also wrapped themselves in straw and walked towards the Ponlocks without any disgust and held them in his arms. These girls still gathered there until the get out of class was over. Harry and the others walked towards the castle. Harry also mentioned the singing he had vaguely heard in class just now, all just as Harry was puzzled about this and was about to slowly walk out of the woods. Along with the wind and snow, there was also the sound of a broomstick cutting through the air. Krum was hovering in front of them on his broom. "Hello, can I talk to Harry alone for a moment?" Harry hadn't answered yet. The people around him nodded and walked out of the woods, giving Harry and Krum some private space. "Congratulations on your reconciliation with Ron." Krum said this after seeing the others leave. "What?" Harry was a little confused. "Listen." Krum took a deep breath and then said, "I shouldn't have told you this. We are both friends and competitors. You wouldn't want me to do this either. I know you are such a noble person. But the first item, you told me what the competition is really about. It also helped me discover my real strengths through Prom's dragon skin earmuffs and your dragon puppet. There will be surprises. Okay, it's time for me to go. You just got back together with Ron. He's still waiting for you." Chapter 674 Riddle. It is different from the original world line. The current Harry Potter is not as emotional as the original one. The original world line, in response to Cedric's suggestion, he was annoyed because Cedric and Chu Zhang were walking around the corridor arm in arm all day. He had no intention of guessing the meaning of Cedric's words. And Cedric asked him to take a bath in fair exchange. Finally, he concluded that Cedric had no intention of helping him at all. This is just showing off. After all, if Cedric really wanted to help him a little, he should have been more explicit. What was even more outrageous was that he had not yet told this to Hermione, who counted as his brain for analysis. Cedric's advice: take a bath with a golden egg. For this, even the deep-minded and cruel fake Moody, Crouch Jr., they all couldn't help but complain. "I thought you would ask for help from around you. Longbottom will tell you right away, but everyone didn't. You didn't, and your pride and your sense of independence nearly ruined everything." Hogwarts looks no different from a teenage boy. It's just that he has a purer soul and more courage. So, facing Prum's reminder, he immediately analyzed the situation. "Tell all of them to your friends. So, if you put on the dragon doll and the earmuffs fly into the sky, you can solve the riddle of the second competition." In the common room, Ron finally got close to Harry. As she spoke, she moved her butt slightly on the sofa, trying to get closer to Harry. Wait, Ginny sat directly next to Harry, blocking Ron's way to him. "Don't we all know the content of the game? Just ride the dragon and race among the blue sky and white clouds. At most there will be some minor obstacles, so as to avoid drawing the fastest Peruvian venom-fanged dragon and being sure to win." Ahem. Ron stood up. Pretending to stretch, he walked around the sofa inconspicuously and came to Harry's right-hand side. Sitting sideways on the armrest, I said, "I don't think it will be that simple. I've been studying alchemy every Saturday recently. That is, the components of the clothes we process. All kinds of protective spells were added. The group magic course was just a review for us, so that we could reach the level of giving up spells and casting spells directly. Those who don't know would think this is for the next 2 games. But we all know that's for Voldemort later. In the next 2 games, I'm afraid I'll only use clothing made by alchemy and group potions respectively. I think it's possible to duel riding a dragon in the sky. Falling to the ground does not mean losing. After all, the clothes on the body will protect the warrior, and the warrior himself may still have combat effectiveness. And the key, the secret of what constitutes victory, is probably hidden in the song." Ginny, who had already stood up and was about to walk behind Ron and pull him away, stopped. He tilted his head and repeated, "Singing." "Yes." Ron wiped the sweat off his forehead and tactfully left the handrail. "Didn't Harry say he heard singing in class? I'm afraid that even if Krum had sent it when he was solving the puzzle in the sky, that's why he flies so high. It must be because I was afraid of being heard by others." And that was indeed the case. Except for Harry and Neville, who were in unusual physical condition, no one else heard it. "I see." Ginny saw Ron leave tactfully and sat back next to Harry. "No wonder in January, he dared to train and fly so high. At first I thought he had some Quidditch secrets he didn't want to reveal." Dusk fell, and the sky gradually turned to light, hazy purple, scattered with little silver stars. Hoo-hoo. Harry flew out of the bedroom window and flew vertically into the sky. In his arms, The Hungarian horse-tailed all yawned gently, emitting faint sparks from time to time. Bring a little warmth to the skin that rubs against the cold air. Harry never thought he could fly so fast. The stars and the moon in the sky seemed to be getting closer and closer to him. The cold air slapped Harry's face. He squinted his eyes against the strong wind and turned his head to look behind him. Hogwarts seemed to have become smaller, and the lights scattered around it looked like stars. Still uses his old Nimbus 2001. Compared to Ron's Firebolt, it's still too slow. Hiss. It's so cold. I've never flown so high before. Can't you wait for me? Wow. It's so high. Faced with this unprecedented height, Ron and Ginny felt a little uncomfortable. It was completely different from Harry's excitement. The cold air exhaled by the two people seemed to gather into clouds in the air. When Harry looked at them both, he felt a little confused. Harry, look at your earmuffs. Ron pointed at Harry. Perhaps the earmuffs sensed that they had left the ground and reached a certain height. Or maybe the sprint just now met some conditions. There were dots of golden light in the middle of the green scales. Harry also noticed that the doll in his arms had stopped yawning object and didn't move at all. Harry suddenly thought of Crum's behavior. Crumb seemed to be flying all the time then. Never stopped. Does this mean that the singing can only appear when the two conditions of high altitude and high speed are met? The sky is our domain, but the ground is where we truly belong. As you search, consider, we took away your most precious treasure. You only have an hour to find and regain what we took. After an hour all hope is gone. It is completely gone and will never be seen again. A minute later, Harry stopped in front of Ron and Ginny, who were listening to the sound, and Ginny said separately. Chapter 675 The Final Winner. The answer to this puzzle is simple. After a brief moment of confusion, Harry and the other two came up with the answer, Vila. Vila lose their beautiful appearance when flying. The face will elongate into a pointy bird head with a sharp beak. A pair of long, scaly covered wings emerges from its shoulders. Man entered the auditorium carrying a broom. Harry discovered that the earmuffs on his head returned to their original state. The fire dragon doll in his arms also started moving again. At this time, it is moving its little butt, trying to change to a comfortable position. After entering the Great Hall, the three of them sat down at the Ravenclaw table, and more questions came to their minds. After casting a protective spell to prevent the sound from spreading, the others knew that for the second task, they would ride a dragon. Moreover, if the obstacle of the competition is a Vila, what's so scary about them if they are just good looking and can throw fireballs in bird head form? Finally, what is the treasure in the riddle? Ron guessed, maybe it's your best friend, like me. Ginny glared at Ron and said, the riddle is about the most beloved baby. Certainly not friends. Who else could it be but me? Harry quickly interrupted this dangerous topic. Well, let's think about what's so scary about Vila. They would actually become obstacles in the second level. You know, the first level is the fire dragon. Danger? I don't see what it means. Ron said in an exaggerated tone, it is said that Vila has amazing beauty. Ginny stroked Harry's cheek. Harry said excitedly, holding Ginny's hand. Hey. I'm still here. Ron rolled his eyes. No. Ginny glanced at Ron, then looked at Harry. Do you want to touch it? How strong is it? Harry squeezed Ginny's hand again. That's not what I meant. Fair. Correct. It's fair. We have to ride dragons in the competition. If we weren't blessed with group magic in this game, according to normal logic, the dragon is much more powerful than the warrior. The beauty of Vila only drives men crazy. And Fleur is a witch and half Vila. It is impossible for the jury to make such a big loophole. This combination of factors illustrates one point. That is, the Vila is an obstacle in the competition, affecting not the warriors, but the dragons. Fire dragon? Doesn't the beauty of Vila only attract men? Ron touched his chin in confusion. Ginny understood immediately, looked at Harry with admiration, and said, we. The puzzle is about us. When a group of Vila gather together, their charms may fuse. Or maybe it was some magic from Durmstrang do is to eliminate the influence of the Vila on the fire dragon. Arrive at a final location and take back the treasure. There may be many obstacles in this process. The warriors may fall from the sky many times. The clothes with various protective spells on them might be for this purpose. As far as I know, Northern Europe is a collective name for Denmark, Norway, Sweden, Finland and Iceland, as well as their affiliated territories, the Faroe Islands, Greenland, the Alien Islands and the Svalbard Islands. But I remember that Durmstrang also accepts German students. Germany is not Northern Europe, It belongs to Central Europe. That was only in modern times. The former Prussian region of Germany can barely be considered as Central and Northern Europe, Ron replied. Then he looked at Ginny again. So Durmstrang also accepts Bulgarian students. Ginny was speechless. Aren't you a fan of Crumb? The full name of the Bulgarian team is the Bulgarian National Quidditch Team. Only Bulgarian wizards can join. The Bulgarian team also wore bright red robes. Exactly the same uniform as Durmstrang's school uniform. The international mascot. Rum exclaimed. Harry waved his hand. That's not the case, although no one noticed that Elvis was flying high in the sky on a broom, but he didn't necessarily fail to crack the puzzle. And Hibiscus, she doesn't have to care about any of this. She is Ryan's girlfriend. She herself is not such a simple half-Vila, although I have never seen a Vila. From the description in the book, Fleur Delacour's charm is almost comparable to that of a group of Vilas facing Hart. Will probably help Furin finds her lost treasure soon. What's the matter? It's Ryan after all. I thought Harry would definitely come in second in this competition. However, I am more curious about what Dracula's treasure will be. If it's Ryan. If he doesn't want to, the game probably won't go on. Ron said calmly. Not necessarily. Harry's the best. Ginny said with her neck stiff. But after she finished speaking, she inexplicably felt a little secretly happy. Ron's position is so unsteady. Maybe Ron's feelings for Harry in that aspect weren't as deep as she thought. So, Ginny changed her words. It's enough to get second place. The contest now features live streaming. It doesn't matter whether you win the championship or not. Attract attention with her beauty. But to the back. When everyone found out, Furin won without doing anything as soon as she came on the court. A panel of judges who can understand might give her high marks. But the audience won't. By then, the final winner will still be Harry. End of this chapter. Thank you very much for reaching the end. Don't forget to like. Looking for more exclusive content and immediate access? Subscribe to our Patreon. Remember, every like, subscription, or donation encourages us to continue. Thanks to everyone. See you in the next video.